We be live.
We're live. Are we live on Twitch?
Oh yeah, we are also live on Twitch. We're
It
live on
actually
YouTube.
worked. I thought they would have stopped because of the title today.
Oh no, they
Awesome.
they allowed us to go live. We're live. Then we are live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We're going to be discussing the news on atheism, secularism, religion, politics, culture, whatever Suze has decided for us and researched. And she's by the way, thank you again, Suze, for doing all the work that goes behind the scene to prepare everything every week when we do the show.
I
Oh,
don't do
music
all the
guy.
work. We have a whole team that does stuff. But
Oh yeah.
for this show, I do a lot of work.
Yes, we do have it. Yeah, we do have a huge team, and thank you to all of them. Music guy is saying idea is good. I do want to mention to people how funny it is that right before we go live, we're just like we have a lot of snacks and we're trying to finish it as fast as possible. Like every time before the live stream, you can see me and Susie just like because we're trying to finish it before we go on.
Well, because sometimes
I,
unfortunately, I'm sure our audience could maybe tell in the past that after going for 2.5, 3 hours, I start to get a little hangry. Start to
yeah.
get a little hungry and a little angry, and I might be a little snarky towards Armin. So I avoid that by binging beforehand. Oh, Sahara is here. Hi, Sahara.
Hi,
I'm glad
Sarah.
she's you're watching us.
What?
Oh, and
What
James.
beautiful,
Wow, we got lots of people here
beautiful.
today.
Yes. Oh, Ghost Bunny saying hello, loves.
We
Uh,
didn't introduce the show yet. So, if you
oh,
guys are not familiar, this is Atheist Republic. We are the world's largest community of atheists, and every Saturday, if you're in North America, and I guess Sunday everywhere else, we talk about the religiously related news that happened within the recent past, usually within last week, and mostly related to religion, secularism. Although sometimes there's a little diversion if I think it's something important to talk about, and oftentimes just a lot of nonsense in the world. So, if you like our show, if you learned something, maybe you enjoy the community that you've gained through Atheist Republic at large, please make sure to like this stream, subscribe, tune in, and if you feel so compelled, it helps us out so much if you support us on Patreon, where you get access to the sexiest blasphemous art you will ever find, uncensored, and you get special treatment during our Q&As every week, and you can get all of that for as little as $1 a month. So consider supporting us financially if you are not struggling financially. With that being said, I think we're ready to start.
yes, yes. Make sure you like the video. Do it right now. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps us grow. So make sure you like it. Anyways, can we clap for the first news?
Oh, really quickly, people are asking about the time change. This is because of daylight savings in North America. So until it flips back, this is when we'll be doing it. I forget that other countries don't have daylight savings.
All right. Can we clap for the first news?
No.
Oh wait.
No,
So,
sir.
but before we go to the first news, somebody's saying this news has died down, right? But we're covering
because there's been new reports.
Yes, there's been new reports, William. That's why we're talking about it now. Anyways, let's make sure that we address why we're covering it after we start talking about it. All right, first news.
First news, human sacrifice incident in Jamaican church. This is wild. So the reason why we're covering this now, even though it happened almost a month ago, is because there's been new reports that have emerged about the nature of the incident and more details that actually flesh out what happened on this day, this crazy, horrible incident. So in Jamaica, reports have recently emerged of a horrific series of events at the Pathways International Kingdom Restoration Church that left 3 people dead, including a human sacrifice victim. On October 17th, the Jamaican police responded to a report of ritualized killing in a resort town church. Pastor Kevin Smith had asked church members to be present at the church on the evening of October 16th, and the service continued until 1 a.m. the next day. The following day, the pastor spoke of, quote, being God in the flesh and asked all members to start throwing away certain items that he requested. As the members were following orders, the gruesome act began. Pastor Smith instructed his companion, Kayvon Palmer, to cut the throat of whoever was standing in front of a broken wine bottle. The pastor began to tell members that they needed to die to be cleansed and resurrected, and even pulled out the tubes of an intubated church member. Someone who's on assisted breathing or like dialysis, that kind of thing. Another church member had her throat slit, reportedly without protest, and with the pastor remarking, quote, she is a goat. She has to die. She is a sacrifice. Several of the church members who participated in the murders were killed in confrontations with the police. Pastor Smith and a police escort died in a car crash that happened while being transported while in police custody.
What religion is this?
Ostensibly Christianity,
but mixed with some voodoo local stuff.
No, I mean, I don't even I don't think it has anything to do necessarily with, actually I wouldn't say anything. I would say that I get the impression it does not have very much to do with any sort of like local practice. This was just
pure Christianity.
People it's more like a cult. Like this was a cult incident. I know that in Jamaica there is like a certain relationship to goats. It has a certain significance, but I'm not familiar enough to actually be able to speak on that with any clarity or authority.
And okay, so what was the update? Which part of this was the update?
Oh, so it wasn't an update so much as like more details have emerged about actually what went down in terms of how everything unfolded.
Right. Okay, so we didn't have this level of detail before.
Yes. There's so much more detail to go into. It's so crazy, but I don't know if we need to, just because it gets really gruesome. Mainly what's so crazy is that now that there's more reports that have been released to the public or news agencies from witnesses about what happened, it's really concerning. And it's so, the way in which the pastor instructed certain of his church members to go and just murder other church members is shocking. So one of these men, Kayvon Palmer, is reportedly kind of like was the pastor's bodyguard. And when told, he was just going to go kill people. What was so shocking was that in the midst of the chaos, Smith allegedly handed knives to other followers, telling them that they are archangels and encouraging to slash their fellow members.
This guy has any, this we can't like really, as much as we want to blame things on religion all the time, I don't think like this is Christianity. You know what I mean? Like I don't think this has much. I think this was just this guy. Isn't it like, I don't know. I mean, I've read the Bible. This is not in the Bible. I mean, I'm not trying to defend the Bible. The Bible is like horrible and teaches you, but this is not in there.
So to me, as someone who is very interested in studying cultic abuse, how leaders can exert and influence people to do horrible things that they normally wouldn't otherwise. This is all the hallmarks of being a destructive authoritarian organization. And, this is very Jim Jones-esque to me. So in terms of because Jim Jones was a pastor as well. Actually, one of his original churches is like in my neighborhood, basically. It's crazy. He So there's one aspect of it that is the abusive behavior that cult leaders have over their followers, but then the religious aspect of it is how do they use existing understandings about a given faith to as a tool in to their advantage. How do they manipulate religious narratives to get people to do what they want? So for example, quote, at one point, female church member Tanika Gardner arrived at the church and was allegedly subjected to a series of questions by Smith, including, do you believe that I can raise you from the dead? To which Gardner answered yes. At that point, Smith asked witness A, just as they're known in the report, to cut Gardner's throat. When witness A refused, he asked another follower, Andre Ruddock, to slash Gardner. According to the statement, Ruddock obliged. So
How did he find such gullible people all in one place? Like, I think, like, even in like in other like most churches are not like this. You know what I mean?
no.
Like even most Christian churches, if the pastor comes and says like, "Hey, um, kill the person that is standing next to you," even as gullible as Christians are, I would assume that most Christians would be like, "What the hell? Somebody call the cops." Do you know what I mean? Like, how did this guy manage to find such willing participants in all of them in under one roof? Like, this is, yeah. Go on.
So I'm not familiar with the overall history of this church and congregation, but based on my research and understanding, this sort of thing doesn't just happen overnight. It's not a matter of you just like finding certain gullible people on any given day
Right.
of the week. This happens because people have been groomed, congregations, communities have been groomed to expect and accept certain behaviors over a long period of time, certain maybe heightened rhetoric over a long period of time. They're introduced to certain ideas of persecution or self-sacrifice, cleansing, whatever they might mean, over a long period of time. And in the case of Jim Jones in Guyana, he would what's the word I'm looking? He would prime them with ideas of one day there will be an instance where this mass suicide, he didn't call it
Just
that, will
like
come.
Jim Jones. Just like Jim
So,
Jones.
Yeah, that's what Jim Jones did. So they prime their congregations with these ideas that
Right,
like
right.
one day this kind of thing will happen. And so I don't know to what extent this pastor Kevin
Yeah.
Smith actually did
Yeah.
do that to his congregation, but I'm willing to bet there are aspects of that were involved in this over a longer period of time because like you said, one thing that I have to contest when you say is how do you find people that are this gullible? And this is a massive misunderstanding that people have when it comes to cults. They think, well, I'm smarter than that. I could never be fooled like that. It's not that simple. I promise you, everyone watching this, under the right circumstances, you could do this too. I'm not even kidding. It has to do with your environment, what's around you, how much this group has control over your immediate physical environment. And also maybe different practices that reinforce or actually inhibit your own critical thinking processes that would normally raise red flags about, hey, this is really dangerous behavior. This is a really dangerous way of thinking. And authoritarian cult leaders are very charismatic, and often they're extremely good at storytelling and making people believe in a larger narrative that they're trying to paint, right? And that is how you galvanize people to act on your behalf. Now, in terms of how this all comes together, when the police responded to this, there was a shootout. The church members
Wait.
started shooting at the cops and attacking
What?
them with machetes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
What?
so a lot of people who were participating in these murders of the other church members were killed in this confrontation with the police. There was one guy, Andre Ruddock, who was the man who slit the throat of that old woman. And he actually was taken into police custody and survived because the pastor, Kevin Smith, was taken into police custody. And when he was being transported in between locations, there was a car crash and he was killed in the car crash. So in terms of we are saying, wait, they had guns. It's Jamaica and machetes. And so this Mr. Ruddock, he is facing murder charges right now. In terms of, I know people often wonder about like who's going to be held accountable. Like that's the answer for that question. But yeah, this
And
is
based on what you know about cults, what do you think is the motivation of the pastor? Like what is the end goal here? What is going on in their mind? Or like what is he what do you think he imagines is going to be the result of all this?
I have
What's the
no
motivation?
idea. That's what's really difficult when sussing out these kinds of situations, because oftentimes there is a malignant narcissist that is at the top of a pyramid of an organization, right? And they are the authoritarian cult leader. And their own malignant narcissism causes them to have a very destructive influence on everyone around them, because obviously they inherently only care about their own self-interest. Okay. Now, what that own self-interest could be can be very hard to ascertain, because oftentimes they will project authority, right? So there's so many instances of cult leaders being prolific pathological liars. Everything
do they
about
believe
their
their own lies?
supposed
Do you think they believe their own lies? Do you,
That's what I was getting to, because this is how
okay.
we get into motive. At a certain point, people say, are they doing this in a willful evil intention? Or at a certain point, do they actually believe their own delusion? And it's a very, very difficult thing to disentangle. Sometimes it's
I
not
think
even
they
a question
believe
you
it.
can answer.
You know, I think they believe it based on, you know, if okay, here's how you could tell. Okay, here's how you could guess. Okay, I'm not saying it's like 100% like foolproof way of understanding, but if they're making money, or if you could say, if you see the goal is something, the motivation is something that is actually will make them better off, right? Monetarily or like politically or whatever, then I think that they know they're lying to people. Okay. But if the end result is like, dude, you're gonna go to jail or you're gonna die, right? Or like this cannot end well, like for you personally, right? Then in those situations, I assume they believe their own crap, because they wouldn't be harming themselves this much, like putting their own life at this much jeopardy, like risk, if they didn't believe this crap. So if they benefit from all the bull crap they're spreading, I think that to some extent they know that they're lying. But if they do not benefit, like this guy, I don't know what happened to this guy.
He died in a
Seems,
car crash in police custody.
oh, okay, wait.
So he'll never be held accountable, because when the police were moving him between locations, he and a police escort were killed.
This is like Puya said in the live. This is like, sounds like a really bad action movie. Like,
it's
how
crazy.
many things? Car crash in a police car. Like, yeah, I mean, if this was a movie, I would like, this is escalating too much. Like, this is not believable.
This isn't believable.
This isn't believable. Yeah, but again, even if he didn't die in a car crash, he would go to jail and his life would be ruined. So I'm assuming he thought he was special. Like I'm guessing that he actually thought he could raise people from the dead or something like that.
Yeah, like the level of delusion is too high. Honestly, I wonder if there was any drug abuse involved, because with Pastor Jim Jones, Reverend Jim Jones, like he was high on amphetamines all the time. And so that contributed to the depth of his delusion and the violence of the delusions that he would have. Of course, I can't actually say. I know nothing about if this man used substances in any ways, but I'm just inclined to say that because this is so unhinged. I'm having a hard time like thinking of other explanations. But like I said, that's just speculation.
Cody's coming.
Cody is saying, bruh, how did the crash happen? I normally don't wear tinfoil hats, but man, that crash sounds orchestrated. Okay, Cody, I'm not going to blame you, because I was like, really? He just died in a car crash afterwards? Like,
okay, we don't know like this.
We don't know, but it's really weird. It's really weird. Like, no explanations, just like, what the
so random. Yeah, me and Susie were actually watching a movie, and there were too many things happening in one scene. And I'm like, okay, what is like? How are all of these happening at the same time? Like, I was having a problem with the plot. I was like, you have to spread it out. Like, it's not believable for all of these things happening at the same time. It's very unlikely. Like, the plot was becoming unbelievable. But apparently, in real life, like it happens. Like, okay, um,
It's
yeah,
wild.
Christopher is saying, how common are car crashes in Jamaica? I don't know. Okay.
I don't know. I guess my final thought is that it's really upsetting to know that there are so many congregations around the world that are this vulnerable to something like this happening. Like, honestly, so many more communities are vulnerable to this type of abuse than we would probably ever be consciously aware until something just absolutely unhinged and horrible like this happens.
The real lesson is stay away from religion and harmful drugs.
Well, we don't know if drugs were involved with this, but as a
Sounds
side
like
note,
it.
just generally stay away from harmful drugs. I will also promote that message.
Yes. By the way, don't get triggered. We said harmful drugs, okay? I was careful with my language. All right. Can we oh yeah, Chris. Hi, Chris is here. Yay, damn. Still can't wrap my mind around the story. Yeah, it should be turned into a movie. All right, can we clap for the next news?
We will clap, and just so people know, it's not because we necessarily support this, but because it's not as bad as the last story we just covered. How about that?
All right, good. Next news.
Next news: right-wing Hindu groups bar Muslims from praying in India. So before I get into this news, I want to say that this is a little bit contentious, complicated story, and I'm going to do my best to represent the positions of both sides. And I think Armin and I will have some interesting commentary on this as well. On November 5th, a gathering of right-wing Hindu groups prevented entry to a public ground in the city of Gurugram, also known as Gujarat. I'm so sorry with the pronunciation. At a site typically frequented by Muslims for offering Friday prayers. Large tents were erected directly over the public grounds, often used for Muslims' Friday prayers, and were used to instead celebrate the festival known as Govardhan Puja. The event was held days after the state government of Haryana reversed the permission for Friday congregational prayers across 8 out of 37 different public grounds. The cancellations of permits for prayer congregations is in part the result of a campaign to get rid of Muslim prayer areas by the group known as the Joint Hindu Struggle Committee. That's the English translation of the group's name. The group even issued an ultimatum to the government saying that they would take action if Muslim prayers in public were not stopped. The local state president of the Joint Hindu Struggle Committee said that his group wouldn't issue another warning, adding, quote, "It will then be the responsibility of the administration to maintain peace, not ours." The event on November 5th was notably attended by Kapil Mishra, a priest and member of the ruling BJP party who was notorious for previously inciting deadly violence against Muslims in Delhi. So, we have someone in the chat who's about to get into it. So, guys, we have heard of love jihad. Now we're going to talk about land jihad. Okay. This is a new conspiracy, and this time it's called land jihad. So.
Really? I thought that was a joke. Is this actually a thing? People
No, that's actually what they call it.
Okay, wow. Okay.
So before we get into it, let me unpack this story. Thank you. In Gurugram, which is outside of Delhi, traditionally, since 2018, there have been 37 places around the city where Muslims are allowed to pray in public on Fridays. And, Friday, Juma Namaz prayers, it takes 15, 20 minutes.
This is a city in which state? Yeah.
Haryana.
Haryana.
And this has become these Muslims performing their Friday prayers in public, on the street, in public areas, has become a major source of contention. So, and there was kind of an agreement settled in 50 Shades of Jihad. I can't. Wait. You can't distract me like that.
Just ignore it. I'm gonna highlight. Yeah, just continue.
So, Liberal Bong Hindu, love the name, is also providing context, saying before 2018 there was no problem with the Namaz prayers. Suddenly, these Sanghi groups, meaning these very virulent Hindu groups, come out to protest against Namaz. So, like I said, my understanding is that prior to 2018, Muslims would perform their Friday prayers in public. Wasn't really a big deal. Then in 2018, there started to be a lot of contention around it and the potential for violence surrounding it. So the city came up with this little ordinance or a permit, something or other, saying that, okay, in these 37 public areas, this is okay. Now, fast forward to the current day, over the past at least a month, there have been continuing and escalating issues. Actually, it almost goes back a year. Escalating issues and threats of violence surrounding Muslims performing prayers in public. Now, a steel man of the right-wing Hindu group position is them saying they're blocking public streets. People need to get around the city. I need to get to the hospital. You're blocking the street. This is unacceptable. Okay, that's the best position out of the right-wing Hindu groups that I've heard, and they progressively get worse all the way to bigoted from that. But I will start with their best position, okay? That they're blocking the streets.
Let me guess. So the milder, so that's a milder complaint against all these Muslims praying in the streets. So like, dude, we are in the way. And the most extreme ones are, this is a way to dominate. This is an Islamic takeover of India. Is that the most extreme
Basically,
version?
they're saying that they are dominating the public space and this is land jihad. Okay. Or they are saying that these prayers are being infiltrated by outsiders and mentioned like Bangladeshis being in that mix.
Oh, okay. Well, actually got more insane than I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So and then it gets even worse from there. So this has,
I mean, to be honest though, the milder version of this critique, I am completely for it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the solution to that is build more mosques, not like
hot take from Armin. Well,
no,
actually,
go on.
That brings me to the other side, which is the Muslims are saying, we've been doing this for a long time. It wasn't a problem until there started to be threats of violence against us. This is only something that takes 15 to 20 minutes once a week. And then we pack up when we go home. And then they also say, we don't actually block the streets. Like, I don't actually know if that's true, but there are many Muslim groups who say we don't actually block the streets. And then they're also saying the only reason why we do this in public to begin with is the fact that we don't have enough mosques in the area, or the mosques that we do have are too small for us to all perform our Friday prayers. And we're not allowed to construct new mosques.
I was right.
We're prevented from building new mosques, so we have to perform our prayers in public.
Yeah, so this is your fault. You're so scared of us building mosques. That's why we have to do it in the goddamn streets. Like with the far right Hindus who are complaining about Muslims praying in the streets, are they for building more mosques so that they don't have to pray in the streets? Are they would they be like, okay, like, can they agree with the Muslims then on this, that we need more mosques?
I'm gonna make a presumption and say no.
So I mean, I kind of get in this situation, I kind of get what the Muslims are saying. Like, well, what do you want? Do you want us to stop praying in the streets? Well, give us more mosques. You don't want to give us more mosques? Well, then we have to pray in the streets. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, right? So I kind of understand the Muslim position on this one. I mean, I am not in favor of. By the way, I'm completely in favor of mosques being built with private money. You know what I mean? What I'm like I complain about mosques being built when taxpayer money is being used, or churches or
totally.
temples. Yeah.
Or
But I'm not
foreign
against
money.
like Muslims getting together and just making. Yeah, I mean, foreign money is fine as long as it's not tied to the politics of a foreign. You know, like usually the problem with foreign money is that it's not just foreign money. It's like Islamic Republic of Iran, or like the
Mhm.
Saudi family, or like the
Yeah.
Turkish government or something. That's the problem with foreign money. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, okay, so that's kind of the greater background of this event, okay?
like
So then, wait.
somebody's saying you pray at home and not in the streets. Well, I mean, you pray. You could pray at home, but you could also like religions. Religious people have the right to pray in their mosque. Like you could like it's part of their practice. I mean, we're against religious beliefs, but it is their right to congregate and have mass prayers, like just like Christians and Hindus and Muslims do, and everybody else and Jewish people do. Like we don't think like they don't have a right to. I mean, I understand. Like that's part of their. Do you deny Hindus and Christians and Jewish people to also get together and pray? Like I don't.
Wait.
Yeah, I don't understand. We're going.
So now that I've provided like the greater background, I kind of want to dial into like what happened recently. So there have been culminating complaints from the community about these prayers happening in public. In fact, police have to protect. There's been instances of the police having to protect Muslim men while they perform their prayers, while people are standing like just meters away, like shouting hateful chants at them. And so finally, the state government said, okay, out of these 37 different areas, we revoke your ability to do this in public at 8 spots. Okay, and one of these spots, which is known as Sector 12, there are two or three sectors that are highly contentious. One is Sector 12, and another one is Sector, I think it's 37. So for Sector 12, that's where it was revoked. And then shortly afterwards, that's when this right-wing Hindu group comes and they hold their festival on the exact same site where Muslims typically perform their Friday Juma prayers. And this is what this event for this festival was attended by VHP members, BJP members, some local significant right-wing supporters, as what was understood to legitimizing these actions of taking away Muslims' ability to pray in public. And one argument that I already said, they were saying, oh, well, this is because we don't want them to block the streets. But ironically, they were doing this by constructing massive tents in this little like made this dude out of like mud. They like built this little figure out of mud for part of their ritual.
It's not mud, it's cow dung.
Okay, I wasn't sure, so I was just gonna say it was mud. I don't know. I didn't know what it was built out of, but they made a little dude. It actually looked kind of cool on the dirt, and
it looks cool, but it smells really bad. They decorate. It looks really pretty, as long as you're not there to witness it, because it's cow dung. They make as part, like, guys, I don't know if you know, like Hindus, as part of their festivals, they make little figurines out of cow poop. They make cow poop figures. But yeah, go on.
It did look like poop, but I wasn't going to assume because I'm woke. So people are pointing out, they're like, isn't it hypocritical that you guys are complaining about them blocking the roads with your religious rituals when you literally are doing this exact same thing, which many people are interpreting as a show of force in the public space, in the public space. Like they just wanted to point out that hypocrisy. And this, I did see some reporting that I still need to completely understand. There might be the potential for more complaints to lead to even more of these public areas being removed from their ability to go pray there in public. I'm not completely sure. So there's a potential for more to be revoked. And what it's actually, I want to show a little clip of this
before you
festival
do, can I
that
respond?
happened.
I want to respond to somebody.
Please.
Yeah, hold on. I think this is like one of the Hindu guys. So he or she is saying no mosques, no Islam. Why would anyone allow Islam, an ideology that advocates for circumstances where people can be put to death for inherently non-violent acts? Okay, you criminalize the violent acts. You cannot, like, by what authority do you get to stop people from building their own mosques and praying in it as long as they're not violating anyone else's rights? Yes, we believe that Islam is ridiculous and like the religion is complete superstition and nonsensical, but no government, no authority should have the right to stop them from being able to build their own mosques and pray at it as long as they're not violating anyone else's right. We can speak against their beliefs, but you shouldn't give. I mean, the person who's saying this, do you also, if you give a government the authority to do that to Muslims and not let them build their mosques, then that government will have the authority to not let Hindus, like, would that standard apply to Hindus, Christians, and every other religion as well? Like, this is ridiculous. This is like it's such a government overreach that here that you're endorsing is absolutely ridiculous. This is tyranny. This is fascism. You're endorsing fascism.
Straight up fascism.
That's straight up fascism. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. What do you want to?
So I just, to me, it really helped me understand. Dia saying like, cows being like WTF?
Like, why are you doing that with my poop? This is weird. You guys are weird. Stop it. Like, okay, but show that here. Let me add this to the screen. What is this?
Wait, really quickly. Shuvo saying, isn't this specific to Muslims performing namaz in the middle of the street and blocking off traffic? Okay, but they're contending that they don't actually block traffic. So a lot of this, especially if you're not familiar with the area, it comes down to like, whose account do you want to believe? But one thing when I was learning about this, I wanted to see what this actually looked like. And so I just want to play like a minute of this. And before I play this clip, I know that anyone who is sympathizing with the Indian right wing will be triggered by the fact that I used the Quint as the source of this video. Okay. I know they're left leaning. Okay. But this is one of the few Indian news sources that actually provided good English subtitles for this. So
guys, yeah, like the people who complain about this is the Quint. This is actual footage from the ground. Okay, so it doesn't really matter where this is being put. Which news outlet is publishing this. Like, this happened. Like, this, they didn't stage this. But yeah, go on.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause so we can read the subtitles in English. So it starts off with a guy saying, the ones who want to offer namaz in open spaces.
Wait. Pause. Namaz, for people who don't know, is like prayer in Islam.
Yeah, okay. Salah. The ones who want to offer namaz in open spaces, they can go to Pakistan. It won't be allowed in India.
Wow.
So this was shocking to me, and it will be repeatedly emphasized the extent to which they do not think that Muslims are Indian and belong in India.
I want Americans who are watching who think that they own this whole idea of go back to where you came from idea. Like, you don't own that. Like, a lot of Americans, like, this is giving me so much far right white supremacist, like, nationalist vibes, right? In either Western European, North American countries. But this is like not like, you don't own this. Like, you can see, like, this guy is basically just this Indian version of that. Go back to where you came from version of that. Yeah, go on.
We all saw what happened at Shaheen Bagh. They resorted to theatrics by blocking roads. I'm not familiar with this event he's referring to. Sector 12 is just the beginning. So once again, I want to remind you, Sector 12 is referring to the specific site they're at during this little festival. But there are many sectors involved in this overall story. Sector 12 is just the beginning. The entire Gurugram, meaning the rest of the city, is left. So here you can see the little figure.
It's a poop man. That's a poop man.
About.
You know what? If this was a custom of Muslims, these far-right Hindus would be jumping all over that. They would be like, look at this. Look at what they do. Look at their customs. But that's what they, yeah. Anyways, go on.
So they're saying, like, this is just the beginning. We're going to go for the rest of the city after this. And then they chant it. It says, protests against Namaz mean prayer in Gurugram's open spaces get political backing. As BJP's Kapil Mishra and Suraj Pal Amu participate in the festival, the puja. Those are the BJP members I was talking about previously who are, well, Mishra in particular is notorious for his anti-Muslim bigotry. At the Namaz site in Sector 12, the event organized by, and the English translation is the Joint Hindu Struggle Committee. Yeah, the Joint Hindu Struggle Committee. The event organized by the Joint Hindu Struggle Committee was also attended by senior VHP members. VHP is right-wing Hindu nationalist organization.
Wait,
read this comment.
Where Muslim
Cody is saying, wow, that's the dung man. Weirdest religious flex to not want to be inclusive to other religions, fanatics to get their in their time with the dung man. One thing that's so funny to me is every now and then on Twitter, you'll see Hindus and Muslims fighting with each other over drinking cow piss versus drinking camel piss.
Yeah, this is the battle of the which piss is the holiest, right? Because you have in Islamic traditions, you have that camel piss apparently has healing effects and can do wonders. And the Hindu tradition is like, no, it's cow piss that does everything. And by the way, they both have like people who act like academic and try to go and prove that, like, I don't know, either camel piss or cow piss cures like cancer or does this or doesn't, you know. And
we are not giving medical advice, YouTube.
Oh yeah, we're not giving. This is like, we don't believe in any of this. We're just telling you what other people say. But it's so amazing that the two religions that hate each other the most, they both have their version of holy piss, like piss that has like divine properties. But yeah, go on.
This is the last part I want to play, because this is in English.
This is the same spot where Muslims offer Jummah Namaz every Friday at 1 p.m. The presence of these leaders, to a certain extent, was a legitimization of the protests that are going on in Gurgaon against Namaz being performed in open spaces for the past several weeks. It was a show of strength by the right-wing groups that no amount of police action on any protesters is going to slow them down.
So that's enough for right now. Puya is saying it's literal bullshit.
Because why do religious people make it so easy for us to make fun of the religion? Like other people, when they do commentary on politics or economic systems, they actually have to go do like research and like study, like, I don't know, philosophical arguments behind this form of government or that form of government, do some economic analysis on to say how much government involvement is good. When we want to criticize the people that we're trying to highlight, we were like, these people celebrate with dog shit, with cow shit, right? Like this is what they celebrate with, right? Like this is what you like. what it's so easy. Like we don't need to do that much research to be able to humiliate our opponents. But yeah, go on.
Well, I mean, to me, the fact that the figure is like made with cow dung is like completely irrelevant to the story. Like, I honestly don't care about it.
I know, but it's actually let me steelman the cow dung celebration. Okay, see this, I'm being very charitable here. Okay, actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, we with our modern sensibilities don't understand how important cow dung is. Like if you consider the fact that this is actually a very valuable property,
It is.
given how much, when it comes to fertilizing, that like this is the commodity that you need to be able to get food out of the ground, right? Like
Well, you can use it for fertilizing, you can use it to build houses, you can use it as fuel.
Yes, exactly. Like growing in a imagine thousands of years of tradition of understanding that this is such a valuable commodity, and literally makes food grow much faster out of the ground, which you need to sustain yourself, right? So growing around, knowing how precious of a fertilizer this is, and how much you would have a different relationship with it. You wouldn't see it as something disgusting that you need to get rid of. It's something that actually you need more of. So if you had grown in that environment, or if you had a tradition, thousands of years of traditions recognizing this as a valuable commodity, you would look at it differently. So that's why this is valued like this. Yeah.
But I want to talk about the actual issue at hand. So
yeah, go on, sorry.
What do you think about the central issue, which is prayer in public? Like, personally, I don't like it, especially if it is blocking the street. Now, there's contentions over if they were or were not actually blocking the street. But like, let's put that aside and just talk about like prayer in public in general. Like, I don't really like that. Oftentimes,
that's why I don't like it either.
I would interpret it as a display of force, personally.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Group instead of just one person.
That's why it's so good that the solution that us atheists have is the same as what the religious people think the solution is. So that means we could get along, right? That means like we think like we don't want this in public. Build more mosques with your own money, and they're like, we want to, they're not letting us, so we are on the same side, right? They want more mosques, we want them to be allowed to build their own mosque with their own money. So given that the secular solution is something that the religious people would agree with, I think this is such a no-brainer. Right? I think public prayer should not be like having prayers in public outside is not even, it's blocking streets and stuff, even if it's for a short time, but it's also and imposing your religious ways on other people who might not be sharing your religion, right? So in public places, somewhere that the tax is a common area where government funding has been used for everybody, so for you to come and take this and make it your own, I think it's not good. I mean, I can sympathize with you because you don't have it. You haven't been given a space, so you're forced to be in public. But it would be something that I would be in favor of finding a remedy for. And the remedy for it is to make more mosques where you don't have to do this in public, where you're not taking space from other people to do your prayer.
Yeah, I think the maintaining the secularization of the public space is important, but part of what makes this contentious is the issue of this permit that was originally issued in 2018, because the right-wing Hindu side will say, oh, well, this was only issued like in 2018 for one day, you were allowed to do it, and then you just kept doing it. Other people even say that it was faked or that it's been manipulated. So the resolving of this public ordinance is a complicated matter of this issue. I think this is going to continue to be an issue in this area. It doesn't seem like it's been completely resolved yet. Because even if I read that some Muslim groups did make concessions on these public areas. But I don't think that it's going to stop. I think that there is going to be continued effort to continue to push for no prayer in public. And one thing that makes it conflicting for me is, like I said, I do support the maintenance of the secularization of public space. But if city governments have previously permitted and allowed this to happen, then having them be openly pressured to remove that, I don't think is okay. And meanwhile, other groups are also being allowed and permitted to do their religious things in public. That's, I feel complicated ways about it, but that's kind of how it sorts out for me.
So somebody in the left chat saying if they want to pray, they should buy land and build their own mosque. Yeah, that's what we're saying. They should buy land and build their own mosque. Like, but there is a lot of pressure on them. Like, there's a lot of legal, like, it's not that easy for them to do so. Like, the legal loopholes that they have to jump through, and there's a lot of intimidation and, right? Like, that's what we've heard before, right? What do we say? Like, why don't you just build more mosque Muslims and pray in there? What would you say to that?
I mean,
like the zoning,
like why that isn't happening?
Yeah.
So the Muslim side would say that they're not allowed to do that right now. They're not being allowed the permitting. So again, it kind of comes down to, especially if you don't know for yourself intimately what these areas are like, which side are you inclined to believe? Whose narrative do you want to go with?
Make it easier for them to do so.
In terms of the accusation that they're not even being allowed to go construct their own private spaces to do their prayers, I don't know what the right-wing Hindu response to that would be in terms of what they say is going on in the city and why that can't.
Yeah, so just make the permitting, the zoning, or whatever, just make them not, like, make it easier for them to be able to build. I might be wrong about this, but I'm just assuming that being in such a living in such an environment where people are so sensitive about Muslims getting more spaces, it's not easy for you to be able to get the permit to build a mosque. But if you want them not to pray in the streets, then make that easier for them. That's what I think.
Well, yeah, anyways, they were just saying, like, just go pray at home. Don't do it in public. Just go pray at home.
Okay, then let's shut down the temples as well. Okay, if you want them to go pray at home, let's just shut down the Hindu temples, and you go just do your old Hindu festival. Just do your Hindu things at home.
And you don't get to construct your big tents in the street.
Yeah, just shut down all the Hindu temples. Like, make it equal then. I'm not. By the way, I don't think I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that the people who are suggest that, they're only looking at it. They want to only get the Muslims only to do it privately at home, but not themselves. So they're being hypocrites. Anyways, can we clap for the next news?
If we'll do it, not because we like it.
Okay, guys, just a reminder, when we clap, it's not because it's a good news. It's because nobody died, nobody was molested, nobody was tortured. So this is our standards for clapping, okay?
Welcome to Atheist Republic. It's light. Yeah. It's light over here. Light and cheery.
Should be like, nobody died. Like, oh no. Next news.
I wasn't prepared for nobody died. Okay. Right. Next news. Texas judge favors religious businesses over LGBTQ rights in Fort Worth, Texas. On October 31st, U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor of Texas ruled that religiously affiliated businesses are exempt from LGBTQ discrimination liability. Two Texas-based organizations, Braidwood Management and Bear Creek Bible Church, had previously sued the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC. Stephen Holtz, a conservative physician, operates Braidwood Management, and according to court filings, he forbids employees from engaging in, quote, homosexual behavior or gender nonconforming conduct of any sort. The Bear Creek Church also holds its employees to mandates that its employees live according to biblical standards of gender and sexuality. Justice O'Connor ruled that the two businesses are exempt from the LGBTQ bias protections under Bias Protections Act under the First Amendment and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. O'Connor also ruled that religious nonprofits such as Bear Creek Bible Church can deny employment or fire an LGBTQ employee under the religious exemptions in Title IX of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It is possible that this decision will be appealed and may end up before the Supreme Court, which is its own issue. Because if this is appealed and goes up to the Supreme Court, we are dealing with a very right-leaning, religiously freedom over weaponizing panel of justices. So, yeah.
This is what you get for voting for Trump. This is what you get. You guys felt like this is the curse that you have inflicted upon yourself, United States. The harm that you have inflicted upon yourself will be experienced for decades to come. You think Trump has gone? His judges are still there. This is why these people want to escalate all of these things to the Supreme Court, because they have a conservative court. Even though the United States is becoming more and more liberal, the court has now become extremely conservative, and this is going to stay like this for how long? These people are going to be there for life, and they'd be younger than they ever been before. So unfortunately, they're not going to die very soon. Maybe this would be one of the news that no, never mind, actually. I shouldn't, but yeah, no. Great job. Even though your country is becoming more liberal, you will have to deal with this. Where are those people who said like Clinton and Trump are going to be just as bad? Where are those people?
You mean Biden?
Where are they? Look.
Oh, no, you mean Hillary Clinton. Sorry, I thought you meant
Hillary
Bill.
Clinton. No, Hillary Clinton. Where are those people that said makes no difference? Look what you did. Look what you have done.
Oh, you mean like those fake lefties like Jimmy Dore?
Yeah.
Who were like, there's no difference.
There's no difference. They're all the same. Do they look like? Does it look like they were the same?
If this isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Jesus Christ. Wait, Secular Rights is saying, absolutely, Armin, the Supreme Court is totally not in line with average opinion these days in the US. Yeah, and this is how these conservatives now are going to, I think like they do. Do you agree, Suze? I think they're on purpose doing things that people will appeal to take it to the Supreme Court right now.
Yeah, they say so.
Yeah, they say so because they're
That's
like,
exactly
this is the
what
best.
they did with the SB 8 abortion bill in Texas. They say that that's what it's for. It is to, that one is to take down Roe v. Wade.
When you challenge them, when you're like, this is unconstitutional, we're going to appeal this. They're like, yes, we want you to appeal this. We want you to appeal this because we want to get the judges as to come out and come up with their rulings on as many things as possible. Like that's what they want. And again, this is nightmare. This is why I think we should we should increase the number of judges on the court, like so that we could stack them up. I think Biden had that plan. I don't know if it's going to work.
Ooh, I touched a nerve. General Zukov is saying Jimmy Dore is not a fake lefty. You are. Ooh.
Oh no. Oh.
Does that burn? Okay. I want to give a little bit more background to this case. So, back in 2020, there was a landmark ruling in a case called Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia, which it established that LGBTQ people are protected from discrimination under Title IX of the Civil Rights Act. Title IX of the Civil Rights Act refers to sex discrimination. And it's actually a very good legal argument because you're saying you're only against, or you only discriminate against my homosexual behavior because I am the same sex. If I was the opposite sex, you'd be totally fine with this behavior. Therefore, it is sex discrimination. So that's how making sure that there are laws that prevent LGBT discrimination was folded into the Civil Rights Act now in 2020. So then these two organizations in Texas sued the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Committee. Anyways, they sued the EEOC over this, basically with the same old religious freedom arguments, or that we're very familiar with, saying this is infringing on my rights. Not being able to fire gay people is against my rights, and not being able to discriminate is against my rights. And the problem with this ruling back in 2020 was that the court established that LGBT protections do fall under Title IX, except that court case in 2020 didn't establish how that intersects with religious liberty, and didn't delineate how to parse the two. And that's where these two lawsuits come into account. So one of the organizations that sued the EEOC over this is Braidwood Management. They're for-profit. And then another one is the church, which is a nonprofit. And so there were kind of two separate rulings. So the first ruling had to do with the for-profit company, which was Braidwood Management, where this just sounds like such a lovely guy to work with, this Mr. Holtz. Braidwood Management Inc. does not employ individuals who, quote, are engaged in homosexual behavior or gender nonconforming conduct of any sort, and does not recognize same-sex marriage or extend employee benefits to same-sex partners, and enforces a specific sex-specific dress code and grooming code according to court documents. And then separately, the judge ruled that religious nonprofits like Bear Creek Bible Church can fire and refuse to hire LGBTQ employees under Title IX's religious exemptions. I'm no lawyer, but I think that there's the potential for that to have more standing, because I know that the way that our religious exemption laws work right now is there are some cases where when you work for a religious organization, if your job is secular, so-called, like say you work for a church, but you're not involved with ministry, you just teach music, there are certain court cases that have ruled that you still are protected. You still get LGBTQ protections. And then there are other court cases that say if your job is actually involved in the ministering of the religion, then that organization is exempt from the liability of the discrimination laws. So I'm no lawyer, but with that nonprofit, I can see there being potentially more standing for that, depending on the specifics. This new ruling allows both of these organizations, both for-profit and nonprofit, to continue their employment practices of discrimination, just completely unhindered, for fear of any sort of liability, responsibility, and accountability for their discrimination.
We need to get more liberals to move to Texas. Turn these states blue, right? Turn these states blue. Go, go, go. Dominate these places. To replace these politicians. You know, they wanna change the seats on the court. We will go, and you guys should go and just like live in these places and change the governor and the Senate and the congresswoman, all of them. Change all of them. I don't know how your politics work. Yeah.
Mustafa is asking a very good question. Mustafa is asking, do you think those whites-only churches could abuse the results of these rulings? Now, so Mustafa is referring to, we've previously talked about a church in Minnesota that is some sort of Norwegian, not Norwegian specifically, like it's like Norse paganism, broadly, that is a whites only church, and they are explicitly a whites only church, and it became very contentious in the community. Now, like I said, I'm no lawyer, but I've previously talked to Andrew Seidel, and he said that these religious freedom arguments against LGBT discrimination protections, there is really no distinguishing between that and race-based discrimination. Because the way that the Civil Rights Act is constructed is that it is about immutable characteristics. It's about discriminating against people on the basis of immutable characteristics. That means something that you're born with that you can't change, meaning your race, your sex, etc. So personally, I actually don't think that sexuality and gender are necessarily immutable characteristics, but given the basis of how law works in this country, I fully understand why civil rights movements pushed for us to be included within that categorization.
Tell people you're LGBT so that you don't get canceled over saying that.
I'm very bisexual. Girls be very pretty. I'm aggressively bisexual, actually. I'm aggressively bisexual. That's how I describe myself.
Aggressively. Hide your woman, everyone. Jesus. I'm just kidding.
And so when I talked to Andrew Seidel, he was basically like, because this is constructed around this idea of a mutable characteristic, if you are using religious freedoms or religious liberties as an argument to help take down the protections around one discriminating against one immutable characteristics, there's not really any differentiation between the other ones. So if you take down the rules that say you're not allowed to discriminate against LGBT people because of your religion, there's no difference between that and saying I can use my religion to discriminate against people of a certain race. That's my understanding thus far, which is obviously very concerning and can go in a really ugly direction. Now, my hope is that already it's going in an ugly direction and we see a lot of public backlash. But if it gets to that point of like these racial exemptions, like or not racial exemptions, like using religious exemptions for discriminating against people on the basis of their race, I personally think America as a collective conscious will lose its mind. Our racial conversations in this country have been rough over the past 2 years, and I don't think we can tolerate that. So I'm hoping that we can get a handle on this sooner. There's one quote that I wanted to read to summarize this before we move to the next story. So Gregory Nevins, the senior counsel for Lambda Legal, great organization. They're a civil rights organization that handles litigations for related to LGBT issues. Very fantastic LGBT lawyers. So he's hopeful that a successful appeal can be made. And he said that the ruling of this judge is, quote, so bad and contains so many errors that even the Fifth Circuit will reverse at least parts of it. So there is some hope. We shall see how this will progress.
Okay, great. All right, we should move on. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes. Next news. Bangladesh hints at removing Islam as state religion.
Wow.
Well, we'll talk about it.
What? Oh, okay.
In Bangladesh, in the wake of anti-Hindu violence and the destruction that swept across, I can't talk today. Okay, rewind. In the wake of anti-Hindu violence and destruction that swept across Bangladesh in October, the junior minister for information, Murad Hassan, said he would speak to parliament to begin plans to revert to the 1972 constitution, referring to the nation's original firm secularism before the creation of constitutional amendments that marked Islam as the state religion. He added that Bangladesh would not become a haven for religious fundamentalists. This appears to be an attempt to address the continuing violent animosity between the country's Muslims and the Hindu minority. Hassan expressed his confidence that the parliament could pass the amendment with little opposition. The likelihood of this happening is another matter. Secular activists with an eye on Bangladesh remain highly skeptical of these measures being successfully passed amidst the current climate of rising Islamism. So, you guys will probably remember, or if you're new here, we've been talking over the past few weeks about just a huge rash of violence against Hindus that exploded across the country in October after the celebration of Durga Puja, a very important Hindu festival, where there was this photo that was circulated on social media of a Quran being placed beneath, I've heard different gods. Some say it was Hanuman, some say it was Ganesh. Anyways, beneath a Hindu god. And then this image was spread like wildfire across social media. And then the Muslims went and attacked Hindu businesses. There were reports of gang RAPEs against Hindu women and minors. Businesses being burned down, homes being like, it was just insane levels of violence that caught international attention in a way that hasn't before. This kind of violence is known to happen during Durga Puja because it's like a very public display of the Hinduism amidst a Muslim majority. But this year was on another level with this social media post that is basically a fraud. It was fake and it was intended to incite this kind of violence. Because of how shocking the level of the violence and destruction was across the country, there's been calls across high levels of the government to unify the country and to protect and re-solidify the secular identity of Bangladesh. Now, there is the possibility of this going through Parliament because the Awami League has this like a super majority in the Parliament. So like technically they would easily have enough votes to actually do it. Now, the reason why people are becoming skeptical is not technically because of the Parliament's ability to pass something, but more like, can you actually do this in this kind of environment? Is it even safe for people to push for this kind of thing in this environment?
So you're saying not only they can suggest this, there's also enough legal support for it, but the consequences of it is the level of outrage that they might not want to deal with.
That's my understanding in terms of the supermajority in Parliament. Like that's what or near supermajority. That's what I was reading online. And then, in terms of the likelihood of this actually happening, this is based on my conversations with people from Bangladesh who are very familiar with this issue and the current environment. When I was reading,
Bangladesh is kind of like the opposite of the United States. When we're talking about the United States, seems to be the government, the institutions like the Supreme Court seems to be like behind how progressive the people are. But Bangladesh right now seems to be having the opposite problem. It seems like the government is ahead of. Actually, I don't know how much support like these mob attacks. The danger that the Hindu community has to deal with, the intimidation, the threats, the violence. I can't imagine it's like the majority of Bangladesh supports that or no. Like, I don't think it
supports like the violence.
No, I mean, supports like the anti-Hindu, maybe not the violence, but at least the anti-Hindu sentiment. Like, okay, how much of Bangladesh do you think would like for their government to remove Islam as a state religion? How about it? Let's do a milder version.
I can't responsibly give you a percentage based on my own personal knowledge.
Yeah.
What I think in terms of we're talking about this environment, there has been for many years an environment of rising Islamism. This is well documented.
Right.
in terms of, oh, how much would the general population support this or that? That's something that I don't know personally, but I will say what you have to be concerned about is even if, actually, like close to a majority would actually be like pretty fine with that. You have to worry about the fringe.
Actually, I don't know. Read the comments in the live chat. So Shuvo does.
Shuvo is saying, if the parliament actually even speaks about it, it will be heavily criticized and there will be riots following the declaration. I'm saying this based on past incidents when the government remotely tried to do anything relating to making Islam secondary. The anti-Hindu sentiment is pretty well spread. Yes, that's well established. But what I was going to say is, like, even if we're like, oh yeah, like close to a majority, they're actually like wouldn't be that big of a deal. You do have to worry about this fringe. When I was researching this, I learned that the Prime Minister, Sheikha Hasina, there's been 19 assassination attempts on her.
What the hell? 19?
Yeah, 19.
Jesus Christ. Wait, yeah. Wait, what's her name again?
Sheikha Hasina?
Sheikha. I wanted to say something, but let me confirm it. Yeah, I mean, she's very pro-secularism, like based on what I've seen her speak, the way I saw her speak before.
Yeah, but Shuvo's bringing up a good point, is like there's a very big difference between having the parliamentarian power to do something versus being beholden to the attitudes and reactions of the public. It's scary.
Yes.
In the early 2000s, there was like a grenade attack on one of her protests that killed like 20 people or something. Like,
I would not want to have her job. She is
God.
extremely brave to, like, imagine having 19 assassination attempts against you and then still pushing for, like, yeah, we're gonna go and remove Islam as the state religion. Like,
yeah, Shuvo's bringing up a good point that I was gonna bring up, but I couldn't remember the specifics. So thank you, Shuvo. Sheikha Hasina's entire family was assassinated in 1975. Entire family. It was her and her sister who survived.
Yeah. By the way, it's very interesting that she's the president, right? President or prime minister? President. Bangladesh has president.
Well, when you have a parliament, don't you technically have
a
prime minister and a president?
Prime minister. Wait, first president. Okay, so which one is she? She's the daughter. No, she's the daughter of Bangladesh first president, but she's the prime minister. Okay, she's the prime minister. But the fact that such an Islamic country has like a woman as the head of the country,
it's surprising.
It's amazing.
When I was like a little kid and I was learning about Bangladesh for the first time, I was like, they have a female leader before we do?
Yeah, before United States. Okay, so they
have... Dee's asking a question. Dee's asking, am I wrong or is the Constitution secular? It was originally secular, and then going under two military regimes, there were constitutional amendments that made it increasingly Islamic. There was a constitutional amendment in 1988 that actually says that Islam is the state religion, but then says, oh, the other religions will be respected as well. And then the other constitutional amendments were to actually like integrate Islamic language into the Constitution. Like, I think it might, let me look up my source so I don't, I'm not incorrect, but I think they might have integrated like some Bismillahs into the, oh yeah, the Fifth Amendment to the Bangladesh Constitution inserted in the name of Allah, the beneficent and the merciful at the beginning of the Constitution. So that's the degree to which the Constitution became Islamized, that they're starting with in the name of Allah.
Wow. See, guys, I tell you, like, this is why you don't let them even come in a little bit. Okay, they just like, it's just in the name of Allah. We're not doing. No, when you open the door, when they get the foot in the door, all of a sudden tomorrow you wake up and your whole country has been Christianized or Islamized. Okay, you don't let religion even remotely. Oh, it's just a cross above the judge. It's not harming anybody. Look at it. It's not harming anybody. Oh, we're just gonna start with the prayer at the beginning of a meeting. Why are you hurt by words? Do our words of prayers? Is it like, does it make you feel pain? Like, does it upset? It's just words. They're like, no, motherfuckers. This is religion and politics. You don't get to do that. We know where you, because you're setting a precedent. Because once it's in, now the whole wall of secularism has fallen. Now you could, if you excuse that, you could build upon that, because now the wall doesn't exist, and now you have excuses. You're like, why can't we have religion here? We have it over there, and now you have it in another place. And they're like, well, why can't we have religion over there? We have it here and there. So that's why you don't give them an inch. Actually, yeah, a centimeter. Let's do metric. You don't give them a centimeter.
Just had to flex the supremacy of the metric system real quick.
Yes, exactly. I said inch on purpose just so I could flex on you after.
Just so I could dunk on you Americans.
All right.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I wanna keep more of an eye on Bangladesh. In general, you guys, kind of mini announcement, we are going to be focusing a lot more attention on the subcontinent in general. So stay tuned for that. I think our audience is really interested in that area right now, and we're going to be dedicating a lot more time to that in the coming weeks. And I'm excited to learn more about this part of the world and focus on it more, because it is, I think, kind of neglected, especially in the area of secular activism, or at least North American atheist activists don't talk about it as much as I would like. So if you guys have suggestions of what you want us to talk about in this part of the world, please add your new suggestions to our Discord. Link is in the description. We have an entire channel called New Suggestions. I check this. So this is your chance to give me direct feedback on what we should talk about. So you're like, hey, you missed this story. Like, bring it to my attention. Join our Discord. Go check out that channel. I look forward to your feedback.
So when you are at our Discord, which is in the description, make sure you find a channel that is about new suggestion. That's where Susanna hangs out, right? So she will read your suggestions if you post it there. All right, so guys, we give you so many ways for you, and also if you want to, actually another way is for you to give us your own experience, right? If you're in any, by recording your audio, we have a link where we tell you to send us a voicemail, and you record our audio, and we turn your audio messages into a show. We have a show called Atheist Republic Voicemails, and it's just basically your voicemail. So if you're in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, or anywhere in the world, it lets you don't have to add your name. So the name is optional if you want to be anonymous. Egypt, United States, Canada, you could tell us your experiences or your views on different things. So record yourself, and we'll basically use all our platforms. It turns into a podcast. We have a podcast, and we post it on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook, and it gets released as a podcast as well. So look for that as well. Anyways, can we clap for the next news?
No. Oh, I just got an echo. Maybe it's because your headphone was close to the mic, but I heard myself for a second.
Okay. Next news.
Next news. Husband of British-Iranian hostage on hunger strike. November 13th, today, marks the 21st day of Richard Radcliffe's hunger strike aimed at pressuring the British government to fight to free his wife, Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, from her arbitrary detention at the hands of Iranian authorities. In 2016, Nazanin was accused of espionage by the Islamic Republic of Iran and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment after she visited the country to see relatives. Zaghari Ratcliffe is one of several incarcerated Iranian dual citizens that are essentially held as hostages and used as political bargaining chips by Iran in its fight against Western countries. She completed her sentence on March 7th, 2021. yet was suspiciously given additional charges and a second prison sentence, making it impossible for her to return to her husband and daughter in the United Kingdom. Radcliffe is deeply disillusioned by the actions of his government, calling Prime Minister Boris Johnson's lack of strategy, quote unquote, managed waiting. Thus far, there have been no firm commitments from the British government to step up their efforts to ensure the return of Nazanin. So I get really emotional with this news. This isn't something that is strictly religiously related, but I feel compelled to talk about it. Oh my God. Like every time I cry over this like very easily. It's really heartbreaking. So actually I wanted Armin, can you give your I want to show something, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Well, okay, first of all, I want to mention that it's absolutely the case that the Iranian government kidnaps, foreigners like this, dual citizens, right? People with dual citizenship as a hostage tactic. I mean, like these people are completely, these are trumped up charges that like she didn't do anything wrong. Like they have openly admitted that they take these people as hostage as a way to get something from the governments that they want to pressure, like the UK, right? They openly have said that this is a strategy. Like Nazanin hasn't done anything wrong. She's a dual citizen of Iran and the UK, so she goes to Iran to visit her family, and they're like, "Oh, you're a spy," and they capture her as a way to pressure the UK government. What does this say about the Islamic Republic? Because this woman is a dual citizen, right, Sus? Right? Nazanin, okay? So what does it say about the Iranian government that they know that if somebody has an Iranian and a UK citizenship, that means that the UK government cares more about this person than the Iranian government. Like, look at how much the Iranian government itself knows the worth of the Iranian citizenship relative to the UK citizenship, where they are willing to put somebody in jail. Like, this is our citizen and we don't care about her, so we are okay with like turning her life into a living hell, taking her away from her husband and her children for so many years, because we know that this is actually that the UK government, this is a person that the UK government actually cares about somewhat. Maybe not as much as they should, but of course more than we do, because at least they are, as much as you could criticize the UK government for not doing enough to free Nazanin, at least they are not the people who are putting their citizens in such level of torture, mental torture, to get something from another government. Like, look how this is an absolute admission by the Iranian government that we are relying on other countries, more civilized countries, to care about their citizens more than we do about our citizens. Like, that's what they're openly admitting. But anyways, you wanted to show something?
Yes, I completely agree with you. And before I move to show you the thing, I want to say that, so the title of this news is Husband of the Hostage, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. That's me making the assertion that she is a hostage, and I am ready to defend that claim to the end. But the British government itself refuses to acknowledge her as a hostage. There are high-level government officials who will say that she is a hostage, but the government itself refuses to actually acknowledge that situation. And her husband, Richard, that's a huge point of contention for him. So here we go. This is from the official @FreeNazanin account. Day 21, #FreeNazanin. Today I have promised Nazanin to end the hunger strike. Gabriella needs 2 parents. Thank you for your overwhelming care these past 3 weeks. So today, Richard ended his hunger strike upon the insistence of his wife, because after 21 days of hunger striking is when you start to inflict permanent damage on your body. And so his wife told him to stop. And he's been camping out in front of the Foreign Office for the past 3 weeks on hunger strike with the support of his extended family and some friends, hoping that they will step up in their actions to free his wife, because he's just saying the status quo is unacceptable. You guys have no strategy. Where's the strategy? You're just going to let her languish. Multiple analysts have called her situation a Kafka-esque situation, where they take her off to court. They don't even allow her to see the evidence being presented against her for this like supposed threat to national security or espionage, which is frequently what they use against people who they take as political hostages, diplomatic hostages. And after 5 years, she was found guilty. She goes through 5-year sentence, okay? The week that she completes her sentence, 1 week later, they bring her back into court with new charges. Start it all over again, like this is a kangaroo court. Like, Kafka literally has a novel about this person who has to go through something called prolongation or like overhanging acquittal, where you just like, either this is just going to continue or I have this hanging over my head. I don't know what's going to happen. And what's so difficult about this is that what is at the heart of this is something that happened 40 years ago. What is at the heart of this is $440 million. So back before the Islamic Republic of Iran was established, the UK had this deal with the Shah over tanks and some military equipment. And the Shah's regime paid this $440 million for this equipment. Then that was overthrown. We have the new regime installed. And then at that point, the UK said, we don't want to deliver this equipment to you. Well, through various courts and stuff, it's been established that the UK actually does owe Iran this debt. And it's also...
So they want the money, but this has nothing to do with Nazanin. They like, give us our money that you owe us, but they kidnap Nazanin as a way to get their money back.
Yes.
You know,
and they have tacitly acknowledged that this is specifically the issue that's keeping her stuck. It's not officially recognized, but there's been these little acknowledgments of this is at what's the heart of this thing that happened 40 years ago.
Like, why does Nazanin and her family have to pay for all of this? She had nothing to do with any of it. Like, guys, imagine like she was in prison and she served her sentence and now she's over, and we got pictures on social media that she was out of prison, and people were like, oh my god, she's out of prison, but would they let her leave Iran or not? Okay, like her sentence was finished. Okay, so imagine the state of mind of Nazanin and everybody else that loves her. Okay, her sentence was finished, she was out of prison, and
she was supposed to leave the next day.
Yeah, they were like, okay, is she gonna leave? Is she gonna leave Iran or not? And instead of wondering if she's going to be stuck in Iran or be able to leave Iran, we get news that no, actually, they came up with new charges. And not only she's not leaving Iran, she's going back to prison. Imagine what does that do to your mind if you're the husband or the children or the loved ones. Like, you thinking there's two options. Either she's stuck in Iran or we're going to get her out of Iran. Like, what? But then you get the worst news. Neither of that. Back to prison. Like, that is like absolute mental torture. Like, I don't even know how to describe that. Like, how evil do you have to be to do this to a family? Like, how, by the way, I don't know if I don't want to defend the UK government on this, okay? But I'm wondering, like, I mean, like, I understand the husband wanting, like he's asking the UK government to give Iran the money, correct? That's what his demand is, so that he could get his wife. That's one of his demands.
Ultimately,
Yes, but I don't know, like the problem, again, I don't want to, this is going to sound heartless. The problem is that if you now give them the money, you're encouraging more kidnapping of other citizens, of other dual citizens. Like you're encouraging hostage taking behavior. So to some extent, you might think, like some of these politicians might think like, well, even if we wanted to give the money before, now it's not a good way to give the money, because now we're going to be encouraging more people being at risk. Again, just a thought. I don't know. Go on, Susan.
well, to be fair, I don't know if he's just saying like outright just pay it.
He is. I heard he is. He was demanding that.
He's in general, he just wants like more action, something. But here's the deal. Here's the problem. So there are people who think that countries should take a zero tolerance policy towards this quote unquote diplomatic hostage taking, right? Understandably so. Like we don't negotiate with terrorists, violent radical extremists, that kind of attitude. But the problem is,
terrorists because we're trying to not trigger YouTube's algorithm. But yeah, go on.
The problem with that is if you decide to take a zero tolerance policy, who's paying the price for that? Your citizens and their families are paying the price for that. On the other hand, if you actually fight for your citizens and their families, you have to work with this regime. And in fact, historically, this diplomatic hostage taking has been successful. For example, I want to quote something. Ji Wu Wang, a Chinese-American historian jailed for 3 years and released in 2019 in a prisoner swap, said hostage taking is a pillar of the Iranian state. He argues that the survival of the Iranian regime rests on maintaining a level of managed hostility with the West. And dual nationals personify nofuz, the infiltration of Western values, something that must be resisted. He says the real problem is that hostage taking currently works. Empirically, he is right.
Yeah, so my thing is that you should get these people back not by paying Iran their money, but by becoming extremely aggressive. Like this should be like seen as like this is an act of war against our citizens. Like, you know what I mean? Like this should be like what I want to see from the UK is not like, oh, here's your money, give us our citizen back, please. What I want to see from UK is like, we're going to make things very difficult for you. You know what I mean? Like I want levels of escalation. You're coming after our citizen, you have to pay. Like I want this to backfire. I'm not saying the UK government should like not do anything about this. I'm just saying the thing that I want to see done is pressure rather than caving into their demands. That's what I want. Unfortunately, they're not going to do that because of the Iran nuclear deals, and they think they consider that to be a lot more important right now than Nazanin. They think like, wars, are at risk if we don't get a nuclear deal. Like that's the level of calculation. So there's two things. They don't want to give them. They might not want to give the money because they would encourage more behavior like this against other citizens. But so they might not want to appease. They don't want to bend the knee to the Iranian government, but they might not like my solution either, which is going more aggressive, because we're right now in the middle of the nuclear deals, and they don't want to mess with that, right? So I'm hoping that this nuclear deals gets over very soon. Like either whether it succeeds or fails, I want we move past that so that Iran can't use that as a way to make people treat them with like with glove hands. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like I want this thing. Mm-hmm. I want the whole nuclear deal situation to be over so that Iran gets the proper reaction for all this goddamn mess, all the behavior. Like a lot of these behavior, like if I was like a head of a nation, I would see it as a declaration of war. Like this is our citizen. This is a declaration of war. You attack one of our citizens. Like I know they don't escalate things like this, but I would see it like that. Like how else would you describe this? You took one of our citizens with no due process, with no legal justification. This is war, right? But again, we don't live in that kind of world.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because in terms of like, oh, you don't want to capitulate. Well, the issue is that there has been court rulings that England actually does owe Iran this money. Now, this is the dirtiest possible way to go about getting it. And it's interesting because there's different people saying about what would be the consequences of actually delivering it. Like, there's all these obstacles like sanctions. This money could end up in the hands of people we don't like. Like, would other countries sanction us for delivering these funds? How would we do it? What would the interest be? Like, all this stuff. And then other people are saying, actually, the obstacles aren't as much as what people make it out to be. Like, we could get her home if we wanted to.
I know, but okay,
and
even
since, sorry, I just want to add, because this is important, that since Nazanin was taken, there have been at least 3 other British-Iranian dual nationals who have been taken hostage in arbitrary detention since her. I
agree. I know that legally that is Iran's money. Okay, I'm not disputing that, but I don't think that. I think you should have. I think you don't want to pay that back as a response to these hostage taking situations. That's what I think, because then you're putting, if it works, if this kind of tactic by Iran's government works, you're encouraging more behavior like this. That's what I'm saying.
Honestly, I mean, at this point, when it comes to negotiating with the JCPOA, governments need to get real. This is the nature of the Iranian regime. This isn't, oh, this is suddenly going to change once this deal is over. This is who you are dealing with in their essence. Like, I don't mean as it's centralized to a person. I mean as the attitude of the regime. Okay,
the essence of the regime, not the people.
Yes. Like, don't fool yourself. That's from Masih Alinejad, what she was saying when the FBI revealed that there were plots to kidnap an American citizen who works for the U.S. government on American soil. Our current administration is so cocked by the nuclear talks that they barely even acknowledged it. And Masih said, don't fool yourself. This is the very nature of who you are dealing with. This isn't going to change with the deal. This is why there shouldn't be talks for a deal, because this is who they are. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. It can't get more serious than this. Sorry.
No, that was perfect. That was perfectly said. Yeah. I have zero to add to that. That's how perfect it was. I have nothing to add to that. That's how awesome. Yeah. Fun. Thank you. All right. And yeah, secular rarity saying Susanna's on fire. She is. Also, don't mess with President Emperor Armin. True. Okay. Let's yeah, look at Qasim saying exactly Susanna. Yes, Susanna. Word. All right, can we clap for the next news?
Yes.
Next news. Hardline
Jews protest against women's group prayer in the Western Wall. So if you want to play that video down below without the audio on, we can kind of get some B-roll going, Armin, so we can see what this looks like. In Israel, on November 5th, hundreds of ultra-Orthodox Haredi Jews converged to protest on a group of women that held monthly prayers at the famed Western Wall in Jerusalem. For decades, the quote-unquote women of the wall have been campaigning against sexism, discrimination, and segregation at the holy Jewish site. The predominantly male protesters blew whistles and tried surging towards the women's group in an attempt to disperse them. The executive director of Israel Religious Action Center and the Woman of the Wall chairwoman, Anat Hoffman, said, quote, their group, are fighting for equality and religious pluralism and justice. She added, we cannot read from the Torah in the women's section in 2021. Why the hell not? So, for those of you who don't know, Jewish holy sites are frequently highly segregated. And part of the contention around this issue is the fact that these women want to bring the Torah into their area when they pray. This is apparently wholly unacceptable and the cause of massive protests and also the cause of previous violence. Now, the benefit is that according to these women, the protection that they received at this most recent event was, to use their words, unprecedented. They were protected. They had a level of protection from the Israeli security forces that was unprecedented. So that's a good thing. But this is a highly contentious issue. And they were, the crowd of the people who were protesting against them were surging with such a way that they were like pushing police barricades and stuff, because these women weren't even carrying in. My understanding was that they weren't carrying real Torahs into the area. They were covering like these mantles or like the coverings of the Torah, like an empty little Torah covering, as like to symbolically bring it into their area. People are losing their minds.
Look at that little. Look at her little old lady protesting in the middle of all of this. Look at it. She's like, "Oh, this is so cute." Like she's like here for her rights. That's kind of sweet. I completely support this woman. That doesn't mean I'm in favor of Islam, religious reform or Jewish reform. Okay, like all of these people are delusional. But I
actually don't even know if she's Jewish so much as like we just want to do this. I mean, like a believer, you know?
Yeah, okay. These ideas are delusional. However, I can still support the rights of people to be equally participating in these activities. Like you don't have to like a lot of atheists have to understand that supporting people's right to be treated equally does not mean that you are recognizing the superstition and the stories and what this religion stands for. You know what I mean? You could disagree with people's fundamental beliefs, but also celebrate their their protests and their peaceful ways of actively trying to find ways to be treated equally. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like this is not like supporting these kind of protests and supporting these demands for equality is not supporting the religion that is being that is the subject here. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
I
don't know,
completely agree. Oftentimes,
I don't know, imagine if you have like two kids, right? Your boy and a girl, and like they're playing a fantasy game, and in the fantasy game the boy is being unfair, right? And then you tell your boy that you can't be unfair. She gets to also have this role. Okay, she also gets to rule the castle, your fantasy castle that you have. Okay, like she's like, no, I only. If you tell the boy like, no, you don't get to do this, she gets to have equal say at like what your imaginary castle is like. That doesn't mean you're endorsing the idea that the castle is real. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's a good example.
No.
Okay.
I that completely understand. Like, if someone's cheating at a board game, you don't think that the board game is real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
I honestly, like, the sexism from Judaism is a whole different world. Like, it's a whole different flavor. Like, as someone who wasn't exposed to this and grew up around it, like, when I've been learning about it in more depth, especially over the past 2-3 years, it's shocking. Just the especially from the really ultra orthodox, like the level to which they want to erase women from the public sphere is some of the most extreme forms of sexism you can find on this earth. So what I also thought was interesting was that according to AP, Associated Press, Gilad Kariv, a reform rabbi and newly elected parliament member from the center-left Labor Party, had planned to bring a Torah scroll into the site for the women to use, and he was going to use his parliamentary immunity to do this. It was going to only be through his immunity as a member of parliament that he was going to be able to do this. He was going to bring the Torah scroll into the site for the women to use, but called off his visit at the request of Israeli President Isaac Herzog, who sought to prevent conflict at the site. And he was like called out for this hardcore. People were really the people who supported these women were deeply disappointed with this guy backing down off of this.
Do it. You know, I'm in favor of triggering this religious, misogynist people. I'm so in favor of that.
And what's really interesting is that Netanyahu had previously shelved plans for an egalitarian prayer space at the Western Wall in 2017.
What? Really?
He had plans for it, but then he canceled them.
Bibi did that? Wow.
Bibi Netanyahu, but he canceled them after pressure from the ultra-Orthodox parties that, are aligned with him.
This shows how these ultra-Orthodox groups, they're so powerful in Israel. This is the battleground, okay? This is not, as much as this is about women, it's also not about women, okay? It's about women plus a lot more. This is about putting these people, like, not letting these ultra-Orthodox Jews just dominate the culture and the politics of Israel, right? They need to be fought back. They need to be pushed. There needs to be a pushback against them. Like, if you win this battle, this would be such a symbolic battle against their takeover, right? And if they manage to keep this place to themselves and not let women come pray here with their Torahs, that will just keep emboldening them to like that they're winning. Like, they need to lose this battle. And to encourage secular, by the way, guys, secular and atheist groups in Israel, they are so good at what they do. They are very, very, they have very little resources, and they are very efficient with what they do with the very resources that they have, right? And if these battles are won, I think I'm hoping to see that they get encouraged, and it's a source of optimism for more, secular activists and atheist group to grow in Israel, to fight back against. Like, guys, you have no idea. When I was in Israel, I saw some atheist groups, like tiny little atheist groups with no resources. They had a plan into how to get rid of some religious takeover in private schools, in places where religious had no business being in, like on schools that were supposed to be non-religious. Religious was dominating it, and they were so clever in how to, like, I want to like dedicate like an entire show. I mean, I already did it. I interviewed them on Atheist Republic. Go watch my interviews with atheist Jews in Israel. The plan that they had in how to combat that, and eventually managed to get rid of all the religious influence in some of these private schools, with the very, like, they were going against, it was truly like a David and Goliath a story, and they came up winning they were like sending letters to the parents, showing them what their kids were being taught in schools, like secular parents who didn't want their kids to be taught religion. Because again, in Israel, it's very, very confusing, because where culture starts and religion ends is such a gray line that you could bring religion in so many places, with starting by saying this is a culture, this is, especially because Israel's history is so religious, right? So you could always be like, we're not teaching religion, we're teaching culture, we're teaching history. And then all of a sudden, because your history and your culture is so mixed with religion, that's the way eventually for you to start brainwashing kids with religion, right? It's very tricky. Like, atheist activism and secular activism in Israel is so tricky. Also given that it's a part of the identity of the nation, so like, it's easier for you to be considered a traitor to your country when you go against Judaism. Like, in the United States, the idea of, like, imagine how likely it is for you to be anti-Christian and be considered traitor against the United States. It's not that likely in the United States. Like, even if there is by some people, it's not that extreme. Like, but in Israel, the Judaism is such a mix, has been so mixed with the country's identity, that you have to defend yourself with the accusations of, like, planning against the entire country. Like that's the thing that you have to defend yourself against if you're speaking against religion, Judaism, because you're challenging the country's identity. But go on, Susanna.
It's a deeply complicated issue, and it's something that has spiraled to the point that it is for reasons that I understand and actually sympathize with. So historically, there have been policies where the ultra-Orthodox community gets special privileges in Israel. And part of this has to do with the fact that they are seen as maintaining a culture and tradition in its ancient form, or one of its oldest forms, despite the giant, horrible, bad thing that happened in World War II called the Big H. Okay, we can't say it on YouTube because YouTube will get mad at us. We all know what I'm talking about. And so this desire to preserve your tradition in culture in the face of something like that, I think is an impetus and a drive that many people can sympathize with, right? But it being so strict with it doesn't allow growth and progression. Like tradition, there are some aspects of it are beautiful, and there are some aspects of it that are deeply harmful. And because of various policies over time, it's led to this sector of Israel having a huge amount of power. But Armin, plug the series.
Yeah, so Doorknobhead in the live chat was saying, okay, now I want to see a whole series on what Armin is talking about right now. Okay, so when I went to Israel, I met with different atheist Jews, and they didn't all agree. So that you could, but if you want to search for the series of interviews I did with Israeli atheists, you can search for Israeli atheists discuss Jewish identity. Okay, so that's what you search for: Israeli atheists discuss Jewish identity, and you can see there's a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. I interview basically 5 different Israeli atheists, and again, they don't agree. Like, for example, this is an atheist who thinks that they could work with Jewish culture and symbolism. Like, they don't want to get rid of like Jewish, like they could, there's a belief-less version of Jewish culture that they could deal with. But then we have, in part 2, we have an atheist that has want to have nothing. He thinks like every single mention of Judaism as a culture, the stories, the tradition, they're all just an excuse to use religion as a way to dominate education, politics, the army, everything, right? And so this guy, he doesn't want to have a Jewish identity. He wants to have a separate Israeli identity. He's like, he wants Israel's identity to not be a Jewish identity. Like, he wants to define being Israeli something completely different from Judaism, right? So you see different viewpoints, right? So this guy was like more of a radical, which I really liked. And then there's 2 atheist podcasters that I talked to, and this guy was very interesting. He was like one of those he's an atheist, but he used to be one of those very, very religious ultra orthodox part of that community. So his experience when he was religious was very interesting. So go check that all out. I'm very proud of those interviews. Those are not work that that didn't get much of a attention, but personally, I am very proud of those work more than
super interesting. Dia saying this was very interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Oh wait, I forgot to say. Can we clap for
really quickly? News? Liberal Blanc Hindu is saying, can an atheist be a patriarchal or abusive husband? Certainly.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, atheists could be anything other than believers in God. They could be fascist, they could be racist, they could be xenophobic, they could be transphobic, they could be misogynist, they could
be a lovely person.
Yeah, like Susanna.
They could be nice things too.
But like we don't believe, like we don't portray atheists as being superior. And the only thing that is superior about atheists is that they got the answer to one question correctly. There's nothing else about them that is better. Okay, they were just about like, is belief in God justified? The answer is no. They got just one thing correct. That doesn't mean they're right about other things. All right, can we clap for the next news?
F it, let's clap.
Next news.
Next news. Pakistan lifts ban on radical Islamist party. On Monday, November 8th, Pakistan announced that it had lifted the ban on the blasphemy-obsessed radical Islamist party Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, or TLP for short, as we be referring to it, after 2 weeks of violent protests that left at least 6 police officers and 4 demonstrators dead. The move to lift the ban came after negotiations between the civil government and the Islamist group, with the latter agreeing to halt the mass mobilization on the nation's capital that demanded the expulsion of the French diplomatic mission and the release of the group's leader, Saad Hussein Rizvi. Central to this conflict is the belief that France's defense of blasphemy as protected free speech is an insult to the Prophet Muhammad. The overturning of the ban on the group that was implemented roughly a year ago allows the TLP to once again run in elections as a legitimate political party. So on Monday, I woke up and I saw this news. I sent it to Armin just with a big fuck.
Okay. I mean, I don't blame him though. Like, a lot of people think like he's bending the knee to TLP, but does he really have a choice? Like, guys, the TLP, they taken over Pakistan. So for people who don't know, Pakistan's government and all the forces that exist in Pakistan, you could divide them up in 3 categories. They are the civilian government, which is Imran Khan, the army, which includes the ISI, which is the intelligence agency in Pakistan, and the mob, the Islamist mob, okay, which is the TLP, okay, and the Tehreek Labbaik party group. Tehreek Labbaik Pakistan, that's what TLP means, right? Basically, very, very, very aggressive, militant, mob. I mean, they don't have guns, so maybe I shouldn't say militant, but they're very dangerous, very aggressive. Like, these are, and they are the numbers, like they're astronomical. Like, it's so crazy how much support they have and what they're willing to do for their belief. Okay, these are not your typical Islamists. This is not your Muslim Brotherhood version of Islamist. Okay, this is like these are, if you don't accept Muhammad as the last prophet, you need to end. Okay, I'm using quoted word because maybe YouTube thinks I'm saying that. Like, this is the people, like, if I think you're insulting Muhammad, you need to, like, just fill in the gap, right? These people have no chill, okay, and they are dominating, they are taking over Pakistan, and they're extremely scary. Okay, they're not as, so if you want to look at the power, the level of control and power these different groups have, okay, the ones that should be having the most power, which is the civilian government, is basically the least powerful among the 3. Okay, is Imran Khan. The most powerful is the army. Okay, however, the problem is that the army is using the TLP and these Islamists as a way to intimidate the civilian government to get their way. Like, they use it, like they have them on a leash, and they just let them wild on the civilian government, and the civilian government has not enough resources to challenge them. The only group that has the resources to challenge the TLP, these Islamists, is the army. But the army lets them loose on the people they want to let them loose of. Like, again, we had an interview on a secular jihadist and with somebody that knew a lot more about this information, and he's like, the army is extremely powerful. Like, other people, other groups that want to, like, when they come and have any activities like the TLP does, the army just makes them disappear. Like, they just eliminate them. They know how to do it. They're very efficient at it. Again, the ISI, Pakistan's intelligence agency, it's the world's largest intelligence agency, and they have been very effective at like doing the things that they want to do. Like they don't get caught. They are very, very effective, and these are the same people that are responsible for hiding bin Laden for such a long time, right? So you know who you're dealing with, right? And they're also responsible for terrorist activities in India. Okay. This is a very scary group. Like the army
That's just
itself
the tip
is
of
like,
the iceberg.
yeah, that's just
They
the
should
army
be
itself. Like,
designated as a state sponsor of terror. Period.
they
And
are.
They probably would be if they weren't a nuclear state, because they are a huge state sponsor of terror.
Yes, guys.
I'm getting
the
too
reason
juicy.
Yeah, no, guys. The reason why the Pakistan's army is not considered a state sponsor of terror is because they have nukes. That's the only reason. Because they have actively funded and taken part in against United States interests everywhere. Okay, these are the people who fund the Taliban. Okay, actively support and fund the Taliban, and which United States was fighting for 20 years, and United States still considers them an ally and still gives them military aid. Okay, United States still gives Pakistan military aid, even though Pakistan is like, we're funding and aiding your enemies, and we're still getting aid from you. And again, you might think like United States is crazy for doing that, but I don't know if they're that crazy, because they have nukes. And if the army, if Pakistan ever turns into a failed state, what's the next in line? It's the TLP. It's the TLP. You don't want the TLP to have nukes. Okay, so as ridiculous as it seems for United States to be giving military aid to an army which funds United States enemies, funds and trains United States enemies, it makes sense if you realize what will happen if Pakistan turns into a failed state. Anyways, the TLP is getting more and more aggressive. They're making more and more demands from the civilian government to make changes, to make things more Islamic, to go after to be more oppressive to religious minorities, to become more like, guys, Pakistan is going down a path that is so scary. That is so scary. Like, I can't imagine being an Ahmadi and living in Pakistan. And very soon, like, it's going to get worse for Shias in Pakistan as well. Like, the TLP is not a group of people that if you give them something, they're going to go home and they're like, okay, things are Islamic enough for me now. I'm satisfied now. Let's pack up and go home. No, that is not in their nature. These people are going to demand more and more, and they're proud of making the most ridiculous demands that they know that the civilian government is not even able to give them. They were asking for Pakistan, for Imran Khan to cut ties with France, to shut the embassy of France. Like, imagine if Pakistan shut their relationship with France, like not even having an embassy with France. Like, they know they can't do that. Okay, but they were marching on the capital, and they couldn't. The police was like in hiding from these people. Like, the police is afraid of these people. The police, again, we have the police is for the civilian government. The army is not afraid of the TLP. They could crush the TLP, but the police has nothing against the TLP. Like, they were digging the road. They were making trenches to stop the march that these people. Imagine January 6th in the United States. Okay, imagine that times a million. Okay, imagine if they had to, like, if they were coming at the capital with the intentions of like eliminating everybody. Imagine if the police was digging the roads, building trenches to stop the march on the capital. Like,
guys,
people that
we cannot stress this enough. Literally digging up the highway, digging trenches in the highway so that masses cannot mobilize on the Capitol. It's January 6th on steroids. Like,
yeah, it's not even comparable. It's not even comparable. And these people are proud of wanting blood. Like, they're proud of wanting blood. Like, it's crazy. And imagine that being like January 6th was just one thing, one day. Okay, imagine this being a constant threat. Okay, so again, that's why I don't blame Imran Khan. Okay, when he's like, when he bends the knee, when he's like, oh, we're going to have a Muhammad celebration day. Oh, we're going to put like Muhammad is the Khatam al-Anbiya everywhere. Oh,
no
we're going to have
the finality of the prophet like I do.
Like I do. We're going to have Quran classes mandatory in every school, like this and that. when he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna remove the ban from the TLP." Like, what do you think he can do? Okay, if if I was him, I would be thinking like, would I be keeping my head next year? Would I have my head on my shoulders next year? Like, this is what I would be thinking. Again, I don't think things are going to be escalating to that extent. Again, if it gets to that point, I think the army would get involved. But I mean, the head of the TLP probably got removed by the army. Like, I think that, I don't know if that's true or not.
What
But
do you mean removed? Oh, you mean the original founder? No, Armin, that's conspiracy. We can't say that.
okay, we don't know. Okay, but they
We don't
are
know why he
capable of-
died.
We don't know why he died. Okay, never mind. Take that back. So, but those conspiracies are out there. So, but yeah, maybe, I don't know. We don't have any evidence for that.
Well,
Anyways, yeah, go on.
if you guys want to learn more about this, you guys should check out the most recent Secular Jihadist episode. So on YouTube or any podcast listening app, Google Secular Jihadists from Muslim Enlightenment, and you will find the episode titled Pakistan's newest capitulation, which is about this capitulation to the TLP. And Armin and Ali Rizvi talk to Sean Taseer. And Sean is actually the son of Salman Taseer, who was the governor of Punjab, the most populous state in Pakistan, who was assassinated because he was advocating for mercy for a Christian woman who was sentenced to death for alleged blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad. And for that, he was assassinated by his own bodyguard. And then later down the line, Sean himself had to flee Pakistan because of I think there was even a fatwa against himself. And Sean is an awesome guy, so informative, very eloquent. I highly, highly, highly recommend listening to the episode Pakistan's New Capitulation, because I learned a lot. And Deep Boudreaux is saying, I love secular jihadists.
Yeah, guys, check out Secular Jihadist YouTube channel if you're interested in more geopolitical stuff around the Middle East. That's the main focus of that channel, is that, right? And we have interesting guests and we cover that. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to Secular Jihadist. Oh, thank you, Mizika. Mizika is saying subscribe to Secular Jihadist, y'all. Yes, check that out. All right, can we clap for the next news?
Yes, this is much more lighthearted.
Next news. European
diversity campaign featuring hijab faces backlash. Oh, Armin, if you look in the news list at number 8, you'll see I have an image that you can show of the campaign ads. I think that'd be good to look at. So
on it.
Awesome. Recently, ad campaigns by the Council of Europe, or COE, aimed at countering discrimination against European Muslim women who choose to wear the hijab have been pulled after online backlash. The COE developed the campaign through the efforts of Muslim youth organizations in Europe to promote respect for Muslim women amidst rising anti-Muslim bigotry. Some posters show veiled women and feature slogans like "Beauty is diversity as freedom Beauty is diversity as freedom is in hijab. Celebrate diversity and respect hijab." And "My headscarf, my choice." The most considerable backlash came from France, where full face coverings have been banned in the public space since 2010, and amidst a tense environment as the nation grapples with what many top officials call Islamist separatism. The COE has removed the campaign while it, quote, reflects on a better presentation of the project.
Wait, but this didn't have any face coverings. So what's the issue with this?
People just hated this campaign. Especially a lot of the slogans that were featured in the images. So, for example, saying, I think a lot of people objected to the use of multiculturalism to promote the hijab, or what they say is promoting the hijab. Like celebrate diversity and respect the hijab, and people took particular issue with beauty is diversity as freedom is in hijab. So here you can see a collection of, there were many different images that they used, but these were just 9. So some people particularly didn't like the images where it's a split screen and it shows a woman with her hair out and then a woman with her hair veiled. They particularly didn't like that presentation.
What's the
of
issue? What's the problem?
Well, they didn't like the promotion of the hijab. They didn't like the way that it's saying that there's freedom in it. People were critical of the way that this is this quote, celebration of diversity aspect of it. Like I said, the like use of multiculturalism to promote the hijab, as they would, some of the criticism was saying.
I mean, I don't like the hijab, but I don't like. That's why. But the whole idea of a promotion is that you promote something, and if you don't like it, you just say you. I mean, you just don't accept the promotion. I mean, you don't. They still get to promote it. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know. I don't like juices, right? Fruity juices. I see their promotion. I don't get. I don't like. I don't know. There are many things I don't like that I see. I don't like burgers. I don't like French fries. I see McDonald's ads, like, but I don't get like offended. I just don't. Again, I am against the hijab, but they should be able to promote the hijab. I would just be like, yeah, I'm against this thing that they're promoting, but they can promote it. Like, what's the issue with them promoting it?
I think
yeah.
They took particular contention over the fact that this is a human rights body for Europe. It receives funding from the European Union, and this is the message that's being put out there. So here's one specific quote. Okay. This is to be condemned, and because of this, France made it clear its extremely strong disapproval, and hence the campaign has now been withdrawn as of today, said Sarah Al-Hayari, the Ministry of Education's State Secretary for Youth. The French government lodged an official protest with the Council of Europe prior to the campaign.
Okay, so sorry, I wasn't paying attention, and this is actually the most important part. When I say what was the issue, I think the issue is that this is funded by the government. That's the issue. So yeah, I am aggressively against it. This is religious symbol. Religious symbol is being promoted by a government body. I am no. Everything is completely. All the campaigns against it is now completely justified in my views. I am against this. As well. I thought this was just like a private, like pro-Islamic company, just like putting up an ad talking about hijab.
No, this is a European human rights body.
Okay, never mind. Okay, so, sorry. I should have paid. But I am 100% against this. Yeah. Okay, never mind. Yes, this is wrong. This is government endorsing religious symbolism. This is completely. I'm against it. Yeah.
And my understanding is that
I switched sides.
The Council of Europe does receive some funding from the EU. So that's an added angle of this. And given the fact that it is a body of this type, you can see exactly why France specifically freaked out the way that it did. This is antithetical to the French understanding of secularism or laïcité. Like, inherently, they're like, we reject this outright, sir.
No. I am. Yeah, I take France's side. I was like, why are people getting butthurt over this ad? Like, I was like, okay, never mind. Sorry, I should have paid more attention. This is government funded. This should be illegal. This is not only wrong, it's illegal. This is illegal. This is government sponsoring a specific religion. This should be illegal. If it was the hijab or the cross or any other religious symbolism, there should be a fine. There should be an investigation. How do you use taxpayer money to fund stuff like this?
Well, and I mean, just to be clear, Gossam is saying the EU funded them. Holy crap. Well, I don't know how much EU funding specifically went into this campaign. I do know that at large, the Council of Europe does receive funding from the EU, just to be clear. Quote, a Council of Europe spokesperson told the BBC the organization had taken down the campaign tweets while we reflect on a better presentation of the project. Quote, the tweets reflected statements made by individual participants in one of the group project workshops and do not represent the views of the Council of Europe or its Secretary General. So that was part of the problem, was they're saying, is this the position of the Council of Europe? Well, what they did to create this campaign is they worked with Muslim youth groups around Europe to talk about what the hijab means to them. And so these are statements pulled from like these kids who are like, this is what it means to me. This is what it symbolizes. This is the message that I want to imbue. And when that's coming from, well, I mean, it's an intergovernmental body. The message was received quite differently. Now, the unfortunate thing is that the French far right has really seized on this. And there were a lot of people who took, like I said, particular offense over the phrase that there is like freedom in the hijab. And they're saying you're completely whitewashing and ignoring the millions of women who have no freedom in their hijab. And it's complete whitewashing. You know, it's painting this to be something that it isn't for millions of women, right? You're in an effort to fight discrimination against women who choose to wear the veil. You are promoting messaging that enforces the persecution of women who wish they could take it off.
Right. I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I think the hijab itself is not a symbol of freedom. The hijab itself is a symbol of men ownership over women, right? As a way to also separate the women you own through marriage from women you own through slavery. It is a form of slavery as well. Like when I look at a hijab, I see it like as similar to having chains on your slave woman. That's what is like. It's the way in which you basically protect. This is like hijab is more about men than it is about women. It's a decision. The idea of a hijab, the concept of a hijab is the decision by men, not by women, to protect their property against other women. That's the whole point of the hijab, right? However, I do recognize the idea that even though that was the intention and that was the goal and that was the origins, governments themselves should stay out of like letting if there are women, which there are many of them, who choose to wear the hijab, they should be free to do so, and the government shouldn't stay. I mean, but that's ridiculous to even suggest that you're free to wear the hijab, because there is no government that bans the hijab. You know what I mean? Like just a simple hijab. I'm not talking about the face covering. The last one was Reza Shah in Iran who did that. They banned hijab entirely, right? So you are free to wear the hijab. But I do recognize the importance of acknowledging that freedom should be there. Go on. You want to say something?
Well, they would contend that that what you're saying isn't exactly true, because an example that they would bring up, which I would disagree with, is saying that earlier this year, the European Union ruled that the European Union institution ruled that European countries could ban women from wearing the hijab under certain circumstances at work. So they're saying, look, in all these different places across the European Union, we are being prohibited from wearing this. You're taking away our choice.
Okay. Well, I can't come up with a blanket statement for each one of those. Like some of them are justified, some of them are not justified. We have to like look at them individually. I do want to also mention that these people are missing the whole point of hijab. Like, where is it? Oh
You
yeah,
mean to not
beauty.
look cute?
No, like when they say
Yeah.
beauty and diversity, the whole point, the entire purpose of hijab is to look less beautiful. Okay, when people say, if somebody tells you, if you're wearing a hijab and somebody tells you like, oh my god, you look so good in hijab, like, okay, then it's not working. If you look good in hijab, then you need a hijab for your hijab. You need to cover your hijab with, you need to cover your hijab with extra hijab, because the first hijab is not working. It's not doing its job. If you look good in hijab, it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Would you like your hijab with the side of hijab?
Cover your hijab with hijab, Fatima. It looks too good. Lady gaze. Anyways.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. I do agree though. Sometimes hijabs do be looking very cute, okay? And that means that it's not working. Okay. What do you do when some people are attracted to hijab? Guys, here's an interesting thing, okay? Given that the spirit of the law when it comes to hijab, the intention of hijab is so that you are less appealing to men, so that you don't get them, get their attraction, right? So that they don't have dirty thoughts about you, okay? If you want to do the right thing based on the intention of hijab, then if you find out that somebody is attracted to the hijab, then you would have to take off your hijab when you meet men that are attracted to the hijab. Yeah.
This is a great loophole.
Yeah. This is Islamically. This is my fatwa.
This is foolproof. Islamically, this is foolproof.
Islamically, like, this is like, you can't, if you're a Muslim woman, you have to identify. You have, if you find out that a man has like a kink for hijab, then you are Islamically obligated to take off your hijab as soon as you come in contact with those men. Okay. Anyways,
you heard it here first.
Yes. Okay. Can we can we clap? Oh yes, I think we can clap for this.
Yes, you're going to be very happy about this news, because the second to last news is always good news.
Good news. Okay. Next news.
Greece bans kosher and halal slaughter. In Greece, on October 26th, kosher and halal methods of slaughtering livestock were banned by the Supreme Administrative Court of Greece. Both of the methods used by Muslims and Jews alike to slaughter animals without anesthesia during religious rituals. The decision was taken after the Pan-Hellenic Animal Welfare and Environmental Federation demanded a repeal to an exemption in the law for religious slaughter practices. Greece's court ruled that the traditional preparations required by Jews and Muslims before consuming meat do not outweigh animal welfare rights. The Greek court's decision follows a ruling in December 2020 from the European Court of Justice that pushes European Union member states to include stunning animals before slaughter to minimize suffering. Rabbi Menachem Margolin, chairman of the European Jewish Association, or EJA, condemned Greece's order and stated that Jewish freedom of religion is under direct attack across Europe.
This is wonderful. This is Denmark did this already as well, right? So it's catching on. Right. So this is, I think, because some other countries already did this in Europe, is setting a precedent, because you see the reaction, the expectations are already set. You have something to build upon. So it's like catching on like wildfire. I love it. Guys, when you get butt hurt from both the Islamic and Jewish community, that means you're doing something correctly, right? That means that this is not a form of anti-Muslim or anti-Jewish bigotry. Like if you manage to offend both communities at the same time, in must be a good thing that is happening here. This is so good that religion, like in at least there are some countries where religion is losing its influence and the way, its ability to, pressure politicians and the government to. I mean, this is objectively a good thing that is happening, right? Like these people, like we are living at a time where we are able to, slaughter animals without pain. You have to be sadistic to insist on continuing to do it the way that they still suffer. Like how can you not tell that you are on the wrong side of history, where we have the ability to make these animals die with no pain, but your religion teaches you that you have to insist on the way that they feel the cold, sharp blade around their neck and they feel the pain and they have to go through minutes of their blood being all that pain. Like imagine you have to experience of that. Imagine that happening thousands and thousands of time every day around the planet, and you're on the side of like, yes, we're on the side of them feeling the sharp blade around their neck, feeling their like lying on the floor in pain and in extreme stress as their blood is draining from their body. We're on the side of animals feeling that, and their civilized world is on the side of animals not feeling that. How could you not think that you're on the wrong side of history if that is the side that you're taking? But yeah, this is progress.
I agree. It always makes me think of because I actually didn't, as a Catholic, like this wasn't ever part of my religious practice. But I remember seeing a video of you, Armin, in I think it was Australia. You go to a predominantly Muslim neighborhood and you see like a poster on the street that's talking about like a halal shop or something. And you go up to the poster and you have your mic. You're like, oh, look, they have extra torture meat. You're like, you say something like, do you like your meat with extra torture? Because you can get it right there. Like,
yeah.
It was funny to me. I'd never thought of it that way, and it'd never been introduced to me in that way, and it changed the way that I thought about these things, because I wasn't really aware of what these forms of slaughter entail. Oh my God, we have a guest. Stop everything. Yeah. We need to give Poochie some attention. We have a puppy in our presence.
She missed me. She ran down because she missed me. All right, let's.
She's so happy to be with you.
Yeah, she's. I haven't been paying her enough attention.
I know, just a little love sponge.
Yes. Okay. There we
go. What a good girl. Yeah, the live chat is also like, okay, who gives an F about that news? Let's talk about the puppy.
Oh, she's so cute. Oh, Vince is here.
Hi, Vince.
Hi, Vince. All right, let's move on. Wait, I don't have anything to show for the next news.
If you go to the very bottom of the descriptions, you will see some things that you can show.
Oh, so we're showing all these tweets, right? Okay, 1.
Yes.
2. We have 4 tweets.
Yes.
Okay, it's gonna be interesting.
It's gonna get interesting.
Wow, this is intense. Okay. Let me have all of these 4 tweets. Which one should I show first? Oh, okay. I'll just show this one.
The one that comes first is...
No, I put the Muhammad and the Hanuman one. That's fine. That looks fine.
Okay.
All right.
Well, no, actually, don't do that one first, because I want to get to that. Just go to the one that's for my event announcement.
Okay. All right. Can we clap? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Next news. Hindu nationalists hate these tweets. So, guys, if you're not familiar, last week we learned that the Delhi High Court has issued an order for Twitter to remove some of our tweets. Actually, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Honestly, time was moving quickly. And this is part of an ongoing, legal campaign against us, judicial harassment in many forms, to get us just completely removed from having access to India in general because of our blasphemy. And we found out this news because it was reported in the Hindustan Times, but we didn't know what the offending tweets were. We're like, well, what could it be? We had some suspicions because we have a few tweets out there with the goddess Kali, which is what started this whole blasphemy affair anyways. But we didn't know for sure what we did that was so offensive and so bad that these justices in the Delhi High Court said, Twitter, you have to remove this. Well, our lawyers were able to obtain the court order now. And I read the court order, and through this court order, we have revealed what the no-no tweets were, what the super offensive tweets were. What are these tweets that the Hindu nationalists hate so much? And I have a plot twist. There's actually one of these tweets that I hate.
Oh, okay. So you don't endorse all of the tweets?
No, I don't.
Okay. By the way, thank you so much to our lawyers who managed to get these things for us. The reason why we can afford these lawyers is because you guys supported our GoFundMe when it comes to our legal costs. So if you guys want to help us continue being able to afford these legal costs, link in the description to our GoFundMe for our legal costs, because Hindutva is after us. Like, they have not stopped, right? Ever since we've been
for over a year.
Hinduism. Yeah, like they are still butthurt. They're still after us, okay? They have not let go of this. So we need to constantly pay legal fees to figure out how to defend ourselves. So thank you to our lawyers for all of this. I really
and
grateful.
Because of instances like this, our legal expenses are going to increase. So please contribute to our GoFundMe. Again, link is in the description. It does help us a lot. Because this ain't over yet.
All right. So we're going to show four tweets basically that we found in the court. Guys, these tweets have been displayed in the court documents, right? So this is not just a Twitter thing, okay? This has become a legal issue in the courts of India, okay? So we have 4 tweets to show. Let's start with the first one, okay?
Okay, so the first one is promoting a speech I gave recently in June. I gave a talk at the Center for Inquiry Canada, which was awesome. Actually, you can still watch that talk, just called the Blasphemous Art Project. If you look on YouTube for that, you can still see it, where I talk about the Blasphemous Art Project. But in the photo, what do we see here? Well, first of all, the big offender is going to be the goddess Kali making out with Sita, the wife of Lord Rama, and promoting marriage equality in India.
This is so hot, by the way.
It is one of our best arts.
Yes. Okay.
And also, at the bottom, you also see Jesus and Muhammad making out on top of a rainbow Kaaba.
Yes.
I tend to think they're less concerned about that.
I don't think they're concerned about this. I think they're concerned about their mother Kali being involved.
Yes.
But yeah, so this tweet promoting an event is in the courts has been complained about in the courts of India. And it's basically because of this image being included here, right? That's the reason why they are against. Like, based on the court documents that you reviewed, do they mention what the problem with this tweet is?
Not in the document that I saw.
Okay. But we could guess that it's basically this one, right?
Yeah, they don't name, this tweet is bad because of this. They just list the tweets that they want Twitter to remove.
Okay, they want Twitter to remove it. Okay, so this is the next.
So what's funny is that this tweet, if you notice from the URL, is actually not even from our account. This tweet is from the account of CFI Center for Inquiry Canada's Victoria, BC branch. And coincidentally, their Twitter account got suspended for completely irrelevant reasons. But I was looking at the documents. I was like, this isn't even our account. This is someone else.
They're going
So
after other people.
I reached out to Ona Romano, the executive director of the CFIC Victoria branch, and I was like, "You guys are in our court documents."
Right.
So what
Okay.
I am presuming this tweet was promotion of my speech at CFIC.
It's
It
probably
was
the same
probably
thing.
it was most likely the same image.
Yeah. All right. Third one.
Okay, now this is the plot twist. Now this is actually the tweet that I hate.
So
And
you're criticizing Atheist Republic's tweet. You're like, this is
yes,
not a good.
openly so
Okay.
and proudly so. So it is a meme and it shows the Prophet Muhammad flying on Barak to go talk to Allah in heaven. And then on the other side, you see Hanuman like being this flying monkey. And he's got a little, that's Lord Rama. And I'm not sure who the other guy on his shoulder is. Maybe that's Rama's brother. But anyway, so the joke is that they're both flying mythical beings, right? So it says, most internet quote unquote debates these days, followers of the ideal man who rode a flying monkey, meaning Lord Rama on the shoulders of Hanuman, versus followers of the perfect man who rode a flying donkey, meaning Prophet Muhammad flying on Barak.
What's the issue with this?
Well, if you look in the bottom, across the images,
you're right.
You see these two little fighting cartoon monkeys, which
this is
I
bad.
completely disapprove of and fully condemn because this is intimating that Muslims and Hindus are just fighting monkeys. I find that dehumanizing.
Yes.
And that's something I condemn.
I condemn it. We're gonna delete this live on air, right?
Well, I wasn't sure if we should do that because I wasn't sure if that would be cause any sort of problem. I was gonna maybe ask a lawyer. I don't know.
No, we should delete this. So, guys, we don't have anything. We don't have anything. I completely agree with Susanna. I was like, it's just basically this part that it is an issue. I don't have any problem with the joke here. Yeah, it's a huge issue. Like, I don't have any problem with the text. It's a funny joke. I don't have any problem with the comparing these two. Also, that's a kind of funny joke. This is like this putting this down here. This is dehumanization of the member of these communities. If the only the main problem, but I shouldn't say only as if it's a small problem. The main problem with this whole meme is this section here. Okay, I think we should delete it. However, I must say that I don't think that's what the people who brought this to court. I don't think that's what they had an issue with. I think this.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think they were offended with this making fun of Hinduism. I don't think they had
the direct comparison to
the comparison. Yes, making fun of Hinduism. We have a different problem with our own meme than the problem that they have with us. I think we should delete this. I think we should delete this and remove it from our cycle as well. So
that's what I was gonna say. Part of the problem is that we have a huge backlog of memes that have been like in our meme bank for years, and so stuff gets circulated that I see, and I'm like, oh no. And then I go look, and I was like, oh, I don't know who added this because it was before my time. But yeah, like I hate this kind of thing, and I don't approve of it, and I deleted it everywhere else except here because I wasn't sure if that'd be an issue for the court.
When you guys saying we shouldn't delete this, there's nothing legal about this. Is a tweet legally, like we have records of it here now. We streamed it of what the tweet was. So I think because secular rights is saying probably right, you should talk to lawyers first. I don't think you need legal advice to delete a tweet. We don't like this tweet. We don't like what this tweet stands for, and we want to delete it. So I think that's fine. But completely agree with your analysis, right? What do Mia is saying? You're getting woke vibes. What do you mean?
That's like, is so this stupid? It's not.
Why do you get
woke to say it's not okay to compare people to non-human animals?
Yeah, this is not.
That's woke. Actually against terms of service. Like.
Yeah, actually, I think we should delete this because it's. I mean, I think this was added to our meme, cycle because we are completely against this. Like, I think this part of it was not noticed until Susanna saw it. So good catch, Susanna. But we're completely against this, and also this could put our account at risk because it is against TOS. This is dehumanization of an entire group of people.
So
So
Armin,
I'm
will
gonna
you do
go.
me the honors of deleting this live on air?
Yes, I will do it right now.
This will be our official apology, mea culpa, for this meme.
Yes, we're sorry.
We're
We
sorry for the
apologize for
no
that.
meme.
Yes.
So the final tweet
Okay.
is a picture of like an Indian couple sitting before a priest at this little shrine on the ground, and it says, "Your ignorance and stupidity are my sources of income."
Okay, this is fair. This is funny.
So what was funny to me was the fact that this is like that they went digging for these tweets, right? In an email to our lawyers, I said, I find it interesting and telling that they chose these 4 tweets. Most of them don't actually involve like the blasphemy that the original complaint was like so offended by. It just shows such a clear bias, because the majority of our content and our memes that we post across social media are about like Christianity. Then like I would say second would be Islam, and then third would be Hinduism. So they went looking for these tweets.
A distant third.
Yeah. Like you went out of your way to go find these tweets to be so offended by. But they like all of the other content that we have against Christianity or Islam like could equally be seen as just as offensive, just as blasphemous. But the bias is so clear that the court is saying you have to remove these 4. Like it's just so bald-faced.
Yeah. It's such hypocrites. Like, do they have no issue? Like, we make jokes about this with Christianity and Islam and Judaism all the time, and they have no issue with it. Like, and they're using their legal system as a way. They're such hypocrites. And by the I'm not.
They want to try to get our entire account suspended over this.
Yeah, over this. Yeah.
Including a tweet that isn't even from our account. I can't get over that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should do their homework at least. Guys, please, again, so before we go, we're going to be dealing with this for years to come, okay? So they're not going to let go. So please help us defend ourselves against this, all these. Again, the consequences of these legal actions could be beyond India, right? They are going after Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to legally pressure these companies to remove us from these platforms, right? And the legal pressure, I mean, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, they care more about their market in India than, Atheist Republic's tiny little team, right? So we need resources to be able to defend ourselves against all of this harassment, legal harassment. So please support us. In the description, there's a link to our GoFundMe account, for our legal GoFundMe account. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
I just put the link in the live chat. We will be actually raising the goal of our fundraiser soon. We're still kind of calculating and ascertaining additional costs and fees and all the stuff that goes into this. And I really appreciate everyone who supported thus far. Like Armin said, this isn't going away anytime soon, but we did promise you guys that when we have updates that we can talk about, we will tell you about. And so today I thought that this would be a little juicy thing to get into, because I was like,
with our lawyer's permission. Guys, when we share something publicly, it's because we talk, the lawyers like let us. Okay, so we know that we're not supposed to talk about everything we do legally, but we do want to give updates, so we do tell them to do the things that we could share with you. Okay, anyways, we should go because we've been here for almost 3 hours. But thank you so much to Susanna for all the hard work you do preparing all this news, coming up with all these detail, researching this, reading at different opinions of different sides. I think you're like, I do follow a lot of streamers, right? Big streamers, and I don't like the level of research you do when it comes to bringing the news, and how fair you try to be, and how careful you are to try to portray different sides of the argument. I don't see that anywhere else. Like, you are the best source of all of the analysis. Like,
I try.
like,
I'm
even
proud of
compared
myself
to
today. I think I did a good job, especially on of trying to present the whole picture, especially on the public Namaz story. I do my best to pick apart the narratives and talk about what's going on here. But can I say something funny in closing?
Yes.
So as I have a friend who was watching live, and as the show was going on, he messaged me. He's like, "What does aggressively bisexual mean?" I was talking about being aggressively bisexual. So I thought it would just be funny to share what that means. So when I say that I'm aggressively bisexual,
wow.
To me, that means I cannot comprehend how everyone is not bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, as a woman, I do not understand how someone could not be attracted to women.
I agree with that part.
It's as a bisexual, when you just see all the pretty people and you can acknowledge and enjoy all the pretty people. It's like it's aggressive in my inability to comprehend how other people don't also see all the beautiful people and enjoy them.
So
Susanna makes a good point. Sister makes a very good point.
You're gonna turn our live chat by. Yeah, so you look at other women, and so you don't understand. So is it mostly other straight women that you don't understand, or is it also straight men that you also don't understand? I think
to be honest, it is mostly straight women that I don't understand, because there are a lot of guys where I'm like, it's easy for me to see why people wouldn't be attracted to men a lot of the time, to be honest. But women are pretty freaking great. So it's hard for me to see why you wouldn't be attracted to women.
Okay. We should go. That was good. I mean, I agree. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all your kind messages in the live chat. We need the support. People are loving your commentary on this.
Internally, I'm still laughing over how D said 50 Shades of Jihad. Like, that's gonna stay with me.
All right.
Good show today.
Oh my god! Wait,
I had a lot of fun.
Okay, you know what? Susanna, I hope you're not pushing the LGBT agenda. I support LGBT rights, but not the LGBT agenda.
For you, I am pushing the LGBT agenda.
You know what?
For
Just
you,
because of this comment, we are completely in line with. We're making everybody LGBT. Okay, we are supporting. We don't just support LGBT rights. We support the LGBT agenda. Okay, we're coming for all of you straight people. I mean,
and when I was in high school, I actually used to say I had a bisexual agenda.
Okay, but just leave me. Okay, we go after all straight people, but let me be, okay, Susanna, and this take over. I like the way I am, okay? Just let me be, okay? But we're converting everybody else, okay? But because I am cooperating, just let me be the way I am, okay?
You're one of the good ones.
I'm one of the good ones. Thank you. All right, bye guys. See you guys later.